Good morning, everyone. My name is Rob Clemens. Today in the background, I have Mr. Jim DePalma and Mr. Eric Hayes. Eric's going to be doing the cameras. Jim's going to be answering questions. And today, our topic of discussion is going to be Fujitsu 101. So this is the basic startup to the Fujitsu training series. Are we good back there?
Yeah, just keep talking.
Okay. Confusing me back there a little bit. So as I said, this is the Fujitsu Tech 101. The first module here is going to be a product overview. Then Jim is going to jump in. He's going to do the website portal and tools. And then I am going to go over the installation process. And we are going to send everyone out a link to a test so that you can get credits towards your Fujitsu portal for this training. Jimmy, I need clicker.
Do you have the presentation up?
Yes.
But the attendees don't see the presentation. My bad. Just keep talking. Entertain.
There is a question box on the right-hand side of the screen. You can ask any questions to Jim right from there. You can pull that menu down just by clicking on it, type in and hit send, and Jim can respond to you directly through there. If it's a question that he feels like he wants to address directly to me, then we will make it an open discussion in the live training.
No, they don't see the PowerPoint. All right, keep talking.
Sorry for the delay here. We're having a little bit of technical difficulties. We're just trying to get the PowerPoint up on the screen so that you guys have a visual. Okay. So normally this is a 6-part training. We're only doing the first 3 parts today. If you want to join us next Tuesday, that's going to be the ETSD portion of the training, where we go into components, testing, troubleshooting, using the portal, using the apps and such. So would be great if you guys could join us on Tuesday to kind of continue this lesson moving forward. All right, so that would be system components, indoor troubleshooting, and outdoor troubleshooting. All right. For these 2 courses, we can give you up to 5 points on your contractor portal. All right. If we, if we're taking today, you're going to get 3 points, and then the ETSD is actually going to be 5. So you can get up to a total of 8 points on your Fujitsu portal just by taking these 2 roughly 4-hour classes. All right. Also, if you're looking for NATE certification, we can provide you with that as well. Just send us an email with your NATE number and your information, and we can take care of that for you as well. So most of the stuff that we're going to be talking about on this first portion here is going to be found in your Fujitsu full line brochure. We don't have them in stock currently. We're still waiting for some, but you can go to the Fujitsu website. If you're looking to download it, you can download it, print it up, staple it together. That's basically what we've been doing for the last couple of months. All right, and basically this is what you're going to find when you open up your front cover. You're going to see our table of contents, features, model lineup, single zones, multi zones, accessories, and then miscellaneous information. I lost clicker again.
It's clicking here. All right, hold on. Got it?
No, sir.
Have it?
Nope.
All right, keep talking.
Okay, so we'll go over this table of contents a little bit till we figure that I'm muted. Am I muted?
No.
Okay. I just got the thing on the screen here. What's that?
Everybody here.
Okay. Can everybody hear me? I want to make sure that we have audio. Audio is good? Okay. Okay.
Try it again, please.
No, not working.
Try it again.
Well, there we go. All right, we got movement. Understanding the Fujitsu brochure. So one of the things that we have our outdoor ambient heating temperature design, or design temperatures, I should say. We have basically tops in the industry as far as our heat performance is concerned. We have our good, better, best here, entry level wall mount, that RL2 at the bottom in 9 and 12,000 BTUs. That is a 115 volt system. We can provide heating down to 15 degrees and cooling down to 15 degrees. However, on the heating side, that's not going to shut off at 15 degrees. We're still going to be able to provide heat. The only thing is, as we get below 15 degrees, we start to lose some of the capacity of the unit. All right. Then moving up, we have our high SEER units, the RLF1 series. That's the 9 and the 12. Those are going to be both multi-zone and single zone capable, with heating down to 5 degrees. And once again, same thing, after 5 degrees, it gets rated down on the capacity. Then moving up, we have our highest series units. These are new to Fujitsu, the LZs, the 9, 12, and 15 single zone system. We can do heating down to -6 on the regular unit, and then on the H series unit, we can get down to -15 degrees. All right, so that -15 degrees, once again, same thing. It's not going to just shut off at -15. It's going to just lose some of that capacity. We went through that already. So here's our right here, single zone, super efficient, 33.1 SEER. That is the highest SEER unit that we offer, that LZAS series. Once again, we provide cooling down to 14 degrees, 33.1 SEER on the cooling side. All right, here's the rest of our single and multi-zone lineup. You can see up at the top, the RLS3 series, that's kind of been superseded by the LZAS. And then moving down, you have your 9 RLFs. Once again, those are single and multi-zone capable. We have our floor mounts, all right, in a 9, 12, and 15. Those are also available in an XLTH, or extra low temperature heating. We have our compact cassettes in 9 and 12, and our slim ducts also in 9 and 12. Getting to the larger sizes, we have an 18, 24, 30, and 36 available in a wall mount. All right, that ASU 30 RLE is going to be one of those systems that we can use for a server room type application, as we are able to get down to -5 degrees on the cooling side. Then we also have our larger cassette down at the bottom, the 18, larger ducted unit, 18, the slim duct rather. And then we have our floor mounted and ceiling mounted, universal mounted units. And at the bottom over there, you see our larger ceiling cassette units. New to the Fujitsu lineup here, we have our multi-positional air handlers. These are something that I'm very excited about. It kind of brings the unitary to the Fujitsu world. We have these available in 2, 2.5, 3-ton, and 4-ton setups. As of right now, they are 1-to-1, only single zone applications. We're hoping that we start to move towards, maybe adding the 2 and the 2.5 towards a multi-zone system at some point in time. But right now, they are going to be single zone systems. All right, as you can see here, basically, we have our unitary products on the left-hand side. A direct comparison you can see with the multi-positional air handler, a much smaller footprint on the outside, with the unit still kind of being the same cabinet as we got used to on the Fujitsu unitary product. If you've seen the Ream units, you've become familiar with that setup. That is the exact same cabinet as the Ream units. All right, so as I said before, capacities 24, 30, 36, and 48,000 BTU. Multi-positional, we can have this unit blowing upwards, upflow. We can also do a horizontal left, horizontal right, and a downflow setup. The only thing is, if we're doing a horizontal right or a downflow setup, we are going to have to flip the coil to make sure that we can allow proper draining. All right, in cooling, we get down to -5 degrees, heating as well, -5 degrees. It is available with an integral heater kit, which is optional. That's actually this nice little piece of equipment right here. All right, that's a heat element, and it installs right here in the top of the unit. I don't know if this can be seen on the camera, but it gets installed right up here. This is our multi-positional, by the way. All right, single fan outdoor unit, just like most of our Halcyon lineup is. And we also have the ability to do up to 230 feet of piping on the 3 and 4 ton system. So we can go a pretty long distance as far as the piping is concerned. So now we're able to introduce the mini split technology into a multi-positional air handler and get into start to get into that unitary equipment lineup.
Rob, before you go on.
Yes.
Good question came in from Thomas. It has to do with efficiencies at the extreme end of the unit's performance. So if we're at -5 or -15, am I getting 100% out of this? Is it going to be diminished? I know there's more detail coming up.
Yes. Yeah, so on those extra low temperature heating units, we will be able to give you that nameplate temperature down to -15 degrees, and we start to lose capacity there after that. Some of the other equipment is going to vary. We don't necessarily, some units aren't going to see 100% nameplate capacity when we get down to those design temperatures, but it's going to be close. It's going to be in that area. We will dive further into that as we go forward. Anything else, Jimmy?
No, well, one of the gentlemen wanted to know if we're going to have smaller wall-mounted units, smaller, like, in the 3,000 range.
There's nothing in the plans right now. We do have 4,000 BTU units on the VRF side, but on the Halcyon equipment side, nothing as of yet. We do get down to 7,000 BTUs, but that's only going to be in a multi-zone application. All right. Okay, so moving forward, and this is the good on the good, better, best chart, the 115 volt inverter heat pump. That is the RL2 series, available in a 9 and 12,000 BTU. As you can see here, it's 115 volts. We do have a SEER rating of 16 and a heating seasonal performance factor, or HSPF, of 9. This is obviously not going to be a Energy Star system. I do have one of these installed in my garage. I have a probably standard 2-car garage, and it is able to keep up with the heating and cooling in that environment, which it really isn't insulated so well, as you can imagine. It's a garage, so it's able to keep up in that environment. Works great for what I need it for. So I like this system. If you have a application where you only have one breaker available and you're looking to put in a single zone system, here's your opportunity right there. It has a 66-foot maximum on the line set, so we could go pretty far as the line sets are concerned. Also a very quiet unit. All right, comes with a pretty simple remote, basic timer, functions. It has power, economy, and economy, and then your set temperature, mode, and fan buttons. Very simple on the remote. All right, here we are getting into our higher efficiency, higher SEER rated units, the LMAS, the LZAS, and the LZAH. When we see that H in the model number, that is always going to depict that that is a extra low temperature heating unit, bringing our heating rated capacity down to -15 degrees. The LMAS single zone system is 23 to 26 SEER. Then we get to the LZs, 23.5 to 33.1, and same thing on the H series. All right, so the main thing that we want to pull from this is going to be our heating capacities. 5 degrees Fahrenheit for the LMs, -6 for the LZAS, and -15 for the LZAH. Okay, we can kind of throw out the old adage that heat pumps can't be primary heat source. We have the ability to provide heat. We have the ability to provide a lot of heat. All right, we do have also smart device control available with these three systems, the LM and the LZ and the LZAH. It is going, all we have to do is install, which you can see right here in the picture. Oops, I hit the wrong button there. Right here is a little LAN interface box that installs right in the upper right-hand side, right near the control board, and that now gives us the ability to control our system from our smart device, iPhone, iPad, or whatever you may be using as a control. All right, also has the ESP function. Basically what that is if you are in the room, it senses motion, it's going to operate like it normally would. If you leave the room and there's no motion, it's going to kind of power itself down, so it's not using so much energy to heat and cool a unoccupied environment. But then once you walk back in again, it's going to activate and go back to its most recent setting. Okay, some remotes that are available for a single zone system. All of our wall mount systems are going to come with a with a handheld remote control. These are optional accessories that will have to be purchased outside of the fact. We can install wired remote controls, simple remote controls, communication kits, external connect kits, wireless devices, and such. So there's a bunch of different options that we can go with as far as connectivity to our system. One of the reasons you might want to hook up to a wired remote controller is most of these wired remote controllers have a thermistor built into them. So if we have a unit installed, let's say high up on a ceiling, and our congregating area is going to be 12, 14 feet below that, we can actually set the unit to read temperature from that remote controller as opposed to the thermistor that's 14, 16 feet up in the air, making it a more comfortable living environment. All right, this is one of the most powerful things that we have on our Fujitsu portal. This is really what shows how our equipment heats and its capacity to heat. Okay, so this is from the the LZAH series. I believe a 15,000 BTU unit, doesn't specify here. But if you take a look at the chart, you see on the left-hand side, you have your outdoor ambient temperature, then you have your indoor ambient temperature across the top, and that TC is going to be total capacity. That's what we're going to be reading, so that's total capacity in BTUs. And you could take a look here as I click through. We're looking at the -15 degrees, and then we're going to take a look at this 70-degree indoor temperature, and that's going to put us at 16.3 or 16,300 BTUs at -15 degrees. Okay, so I believe it was Tom asked the question before.
Yes.
Talking about our capacities. You can see right here that in a lot of cases our equipment is going to outperform its nameplate BTUs. Another thing I want everybody to take into consideration is, the footprint that we are located. Most of us are going to be from the New York, New Jersey area. Long Island, we may see a little bit lower temperatures when we start to get to upstate New York, but as far as central New Jersey, northern New Jersey, Manhattan, Long Island and such, we're really going to be operating right around the 14-degree design temperature day. And that's basically just saying that's the average low temperature of the year. Yes, we can see below those temperatures, but it's not really all that often. And when it does occur, it's not really for a prolonged period of time. So we go with our 14-degree design temperature. And if you take a look on that chart there at 14 degrees with a 70-degree indoor temperature, this system is capable of producing 21,600 BTUs. Okay, so there you can kind of see where we start to outperform the competition, and especially standard unitary heat pump applications, or electric baseboard, or electric heat heat element heating type units. We're saving a lot as far as the energy consumption is concerned, and we're able to provide lower temperatures, higher BTUs. So this is in design and technical manual on the Fujitsu portal. If you are going to be installing one of these pieces of equipment, you go to the Fujitsu portal page, you go to your contractor page, and under product entry, you'll have the ability to choose which piece of equipment you want to look at. And then from the literature section under that unit, you can find the design and technical manual. And then you can find your capacity charts in both heating and cooling. They're in depth. They go, they go very into detail as far as the output of the equipment. And the best thing about it is, when compared to our competition, all of our extra low temperature heating units have the base heater, have the upgraded fan with the metal blade to protect the fan. Most of those things, those are the reasons why we are able to get those high efficiencies at those lower temperatures. That comes standard in our units. When you're talking about our competition, those are components that you actually have to install yourself on the job, which means when they do their testing in the factory, they're not testing it with their base heaters and such already installed in the units. Their capacities are actually lower than they say they are. All right, so just throwing that out there. You can do what you want with that. All right, so on these systems, you get a more robust type of remote. You get a weekly timer, an economy, sleep mode even. So it's a more robust remote, even comes with a powerful operation. You could do minimum heat. So say if you're going on vacation and you just want to set the unit so that you don't freeze the pipes in your house, you have the ability to do so just by clicking on the minimum heat. Save yourself some energy, save yourself the worry of having to deal with busted water pipes when you get home in a flooded basement. All right, so moving on, the 9 and 12 RLFs. This is the middle of the line unit. Also available in, or these are also able to be hooked up to multi-zone systems. So if you see a multi-zone system, an RLF is going to be the indoor unit, in the indoor unit model number. All right, so mid-range on the efficiencies, 23 and 22 respectively, and a HSPF of 11. Which does put that in the Energy Star category. So for a single zone system, if you wanted to install one of these, you will have an Energy Star unit and possibly rebates to come along with it. Cooling down to 14 degrees and heating down to 5 degrees. Once again, none of our equipment will shut off at those lower temperatures. We just start to lose some of that capacity. And now we're getting into our larger wall mount units, the 18 and 24,000. These are large single zone wall mounted units. see here, as we start to get into the larger sizes, we start to lose some of that capacity. Same thing as with standard unitary equipment, but these still are Energy Star pieces of equipment, because you can see there we're above 18 SEER and 10 HSPF. So once again, Energy Star pieces of equipment. All right, so they can deliver 100% of that heated capacity down to 5 degrees. And then we start to lose a little bit of that rated capacity as we go down. And you can see that kind of there over there on the chart. All right, so remember I said before, you know, some of these units, they aren't going to be able to give you that capacity at their rated temperature. It's going to depend on which piece of equipment that you're installing. And then getting to the ASU 30, this is going to be the most common used as the server room application. As you can see there, it has a double fan. That's at the outdoor unit. We have a cooling operating range up down to -5 degrees, with the heating operating range at -15. So it is an XLTH, as you can see an H at the end of that model number. And we can provide cooling down to -5. So why would we want to provide cooling at -5 degrees? And exactly for that reason, this is why it's perfect for a server room. Server rooms always end up producing a lot more heat. Therefore, they need a lot more capacity all year round. And in order to provide that, we need to be able to get down with our cooling operating range. So -5 degrees, we're able to cool down to. All right. So another thing with these pieces of equipment, let's say you have a larger room that is going to be more than a 30,000 BTU capacity to cool that server room environment. We do have the ability to daisy chain the wiring between the two units, and now that will allow us to have lead lag control. What that does is basically gives us a backup operation in case we have one of the systems go down. So redundancy, we could do a dual stage operation. So if the room is not cooling quick enough with the one system operating, it will turn on the second system. And also we have the alternate operation. So basically what it does is the first demand comes on, unit A will come on, cover the demand, and the next demand comes on, unit B takes over from there. So one unit is not going to be overworked. All right. They also have the ability to provide cooling only. But remember, Fujitsu does not sell any equipment that is not a heat pump. So something like that would be, you would have to go into your special function settings and set it to cooling only, which would be only set by the contractor. This way you don't have the end user having the ability to go in there and say, oh, you know what, maybe it's a little too cool in this room, let me turn on the heat on these servers. All right, so you do have the ability to do that. And it's basically just jumping the wires across the two that allows that communication. All right. Also, another thing that, this is an optional accessory, comes with a wall mount remote. But if you wanted to, you can get one of these RNR-UZ2. That's a control that is basically meant for this piece of equipment. And it can display the room temperature right on the control, so you have that ability. Just remember that wired remote will not work with a lead lag twin installation. All right, so if you're looking to do a lead lag controlled system, we want to make sure that we go with the handheld remote. All right, then we get into our outdoor units here. You can see on the bottom, we have our 18, 24, and 30, 36 configurations. The 30 and the 36 come standard with a blue fin heat exchanger, which is just an corrosive coating that's put on the coil, a cobalt blue protection. That's really going to be useful in shore type applications where we have a harsh environment. We could also have the outdoor boards coated so that they're less susceptible to the harsh environments of shore living. Heating capacities from 5 to 75 degrees, cooling from 14 to 115 degrees. And you can see there your efficiencies as well, around 19 down to 16.5 in the SEER rating, and starting at 8.5 and going up to 12.5 on the EER. The 18 and the 24 are Energy Star units. The 30 and the 36 are not. Question?
Okay.
No question?
No, we're good.
Okay. Then we get to our single zone non-wall mount systems. All right, the universal ceiling, that's going to be an 18 and 24. The 36, which is very similar to those units, actually only going to be a ceiling suspended unit. We have our large cassettes from 18 to 42,000 BTU, slim duct from 9 to 12, compact cassettes from 9 to 12. Our floor mount units go from 9 to 15, and the floor mount units are also available in an XLTH or extra low temperature heating configuration.
Hey, Rob.
Yes.
I got a question on this universal.
Yeah.
Now that you clicked on it, what's a good application for this?
So the best kind of application, or the most frequently used type of application for this piece of equipment, is going to be in the like a church or a school or something like that. Usually found in the main areas, vestibules, foyers, stuff like that. Sometimes they'll take the place of P-tax, but most of the time you're going to see these in schools or churches.
Thank you.
Yep. Oh, let me go back. So you could see there, we have our ceiling mounted, floor mounted universal piece of equipment. 0 degrees, low ambient out of the box. So we could also use these for server room applications if need be. 160 foot on the extended piping. So once again, for single zone system, very long line sets. And as I mentioned, great for schools and churches. We get to the 36, that is only going to be a ceiling mount. We don't have the ability to mount that on the floor. 160 foot pipe and up to 98 feet of rise. So we can go upwards as much as 5 stories, or even downwards if we have to, if we wanted to install the outdoor unit on the roof and then put this indoor unit in the, on the first floor. Once again, can be used in a computer room, and we also have a fresh air intake option, which I'll talk about a little bit more once we get into the accessories portion. All right, wireless remotes, once again, will come with these units, but we do have the ability to use them, to use that, excuse me, use that optional accessory wired remote. Floor mounted systems, as you can see there, great replacements for old steam radiators. You may get the question at some point in time, is there a more efficient way, a more efficient steam boiler system, that I can install in my house? The steam is great, but it's costing me a ton of money. Yes, this is basically going to take that old steam system's place. Basically remove that radiator and install this floor mounted unit right in its place. As you can see there, up to 26 SEER, up to 12.4 HSPF, and really the perfect answer to Mrs. Clemens saying that saying that she wants to, she doesn't want to see, quote unquote, big ugly boxes on the wall. So my wife, as I mentioned, Mrs. Clemens, that's basically what she told me when I told her that I wanted to install mini splits in our home when we first moved into it. which we haven't gotten around to that project yet, I'm sorry to say. But yeah, that was her one thing, was on the first floor of the house, she did not want to see any high on the wall mounted units. But with the ability to tuck them underneath a window, she was a lot happier with that scenario. Now she can, now she could deal with, with the look of it, because, everybody knows that you want to save money and on your utility bills, and that's ultimately, one of the greatest features of these pieces of equipment is the ability to save that money. But here's our answer for that. So available in 9, 12, and 15,000 BTUs. All of them are heat pumps, and they are available in extra low temperature heating. Okay, and you can see that right there, down to negative 15 degrees. There's getting into the slim duct units. We have the ability with these guys to do a horizontal and a upflow scenario, available in 7, 9, and 12,000 BTU. We also have an 18, 24,000 BTU in a larger cabinet size. So we have 2 cabinet sizes that'll cover those 5 ranges. These all come with a wired remote. We do have the ability to install a handheld remote, but we'll talk about that more in the accessories. All right, so these are our slim ducted units. They do have adjustable static pressure. It's not automatic, so the static pressure is something that you're going to have to adjust on the job. And we always want to make sure that you know that this is a very low static unit. So we cannot do a great deal of ducting with this piece of equipment. We want to keep the ducting very minimal, 5, 10 feet at the most, depending on what the sizes are. So something we want to be careful of when we're installing these. We don't want to do multiple rooms with these pieces of equipment. They're just not meant for that. Getting to the unit itself here, you can see we have our return on the right-hand side with the supply straight ahead on the left. We have I'm going to just point to those here. Here's our flare fittings where our copper connects. We have our gravity drain down at the bottom, and then right up here at the top, that is going to be our lift pump. We could do up to 28 inches of lift from that port, or 33 inches from the bottom of the unit. But after that, the unit basically becomes a gravity drain. So we could lift up to 28 inches, but after that, we're only going to be able to, just flow downhill like a normal gravity drain. And it does come with that drain adapter, which will plug right into that pump port, and then you can hook your 3/4 PVC right up to that. All right, there's your lift on your pump, 33 inches from the bottom or 28 inches from the port itself. Now also, when we are doing this unit in a wall mount horizontal application, we always want to make sure that we remove the JM1 resistor. So if you look on the main control board, which is located right over here, on the bottom right-hand side of that control board, you'll see this little circle with the dots around it, and it'll have 3 resistors on it. They're labeled, but they're a little bit tough to see. We want to cut the bottom one out, and basically what that does is it just cuts the power to the condensate pump. If we don't do that, we're going to get a condensate pump error code, because in that position, that condensate pump will actually send a closed signal to the board, telling the unit basically that that the pump isn't working properly, that the pump is working properly, that there's too much water in the pan, and it's not it's basically cutting it off. So we'll get an error code if we don't cut that JM1 plug out.
Excuse me, Rob.
Yes.
So another good question. Again, it looks like some people have never seen this unit before.
Okay.
Or not familiar with like what's a good application for it.
Yes. So this is basically you're going to install this. When you don't have well, first of all, when you don't want to see it on a wall. you know, you might use something like this for a, I mean, there's a lot of uses. You know,
If I could interject, I know like when we get to Hoboken, Jersey City, some of those bedrooms are really small.
right,
We really can't have a single head in there. They're too big.
right,
So we combine bedrooms together.
sure,
Right.
sure. Yeah, but like I said, we don't want to go, you know, we don't want to do multiple rooms with them. They don't require a lot of room for installing, so another application you might see these in is hotel applications. I just had one down on the shore at a Holiday Inn, and basically, you know, in that area, right where you first walk in that, you know, kind of entry area where there's the bathroom, the closet, or whatever it is, right there. That ceiling is usually lower on, you know, a little bit lower than the rest of the room, and that's where you would find one of these small ducted units. And then you'll see right on the side wall, you'll have a supply and return, or you could have two small supplies, and then the return could be down in that, you know, that hallway area. But hotel applications, you see these a lot as well. Go back. Then we get into our medium ducted systems, our GLXs. We have from 12,000 all the way up to 48,000 BTUs. These are going to be able to provide us with a lot higher static pressure. So on the slim ducted units, we're getting up to 0.36 inches in water column. In these units here, we can get up to 0.8. So more than double the amount of static in water column. All right, the 12 and 18,000 BTU are both going to be Energy Star. The rest are going to fall just outside of that range, so another thing to take into consideration. These pieces of equipment you can use in a lot of situations where you're looking to do multiple rooms. They can be hidden, say you have a gap between floors, so you know, multiple floor type application. Sometimes you can see that in a hotel or something along those lines, maybe like a more like a suite room. The unit's actually installed in the ceiling, in between, you know, one floor and the ceiling. You're going to have to have some sort of access panel, obviously, if you want to get in there to service it. But we are now able to provide multiple rooms with this piece of equipment. You know, maybe some, you know, in smaller house settings, if you wanted to do whole floors, you can do that as well. So a couple of different things that you can use these for. As you can see here, up to 21 SEER, 11.7 HSPF. Very flexible. We could go up to 246 feet on the line sets. So once again, our compressors allow us to go a much farther distance for our line sets. The very powerful fan as well. We can get up to 1500 CFM out of them. So that's another plus as well. All right, as you can see here, this is what our static capabilities are: 12 to 0.12, 0.12 to 0.80 on the 12 to 30,000, and then when you get up to the 36, 42, and 48, we're going to lose a little bit of that, dropping down to 0.72 inches. So great feature with these units. We have the ability, if we're using the 2-wire remote, which these units can be, you can use a 2 or 3-wire remote. We always recommend the 2 for this reason. If you use a 2-wire remote system on this, we get our automatic static pressure adjustment. So the unit will actually detect what the static pressure of the system is and adjust it accordingly. All right. Otherwise, you would have to set that static pressure manually. All right. So if you installed that 3-wire control, you'd have to do that manually. Get into our compact cassettes. These fit in a 2x2 ceiling grid. Application that we're going to see these used most in, you know, maybe office settings, much like we have here, drop ceiling. All right, perfect to, fits right in that 2x2 ceiling grid. Maybe, meeting rooms, stuff like that. That's where you're going to see these most of the time. They have a very low profile, very powerful 2-stage fan, and they're available in a 9, 12, and 18,000 BTU. There is a factory installed condensate pump on these, and that is the same lift as the slim ducted system. These units are shipped with a wired remote, but we do have the optional accessory to install or to use rather, a wireless remote control. And once again, that fresh air accessory kit. So if we want to introduce fresh air into the room as well, we have the ability to do so. All right, getting into the larger cassettes. These are not going to fit into your standard tiles, so you might have to do some readjusting if you wanted to do put these units in a drop ceiling type scenario. One thing I do want to say, if you are installing them in a drop ceiling type scenario, we want to make sure that we always hang these units with threaded rod. We don't want to just suspend them from the ceiling, because obviously they're going to be too heavy, and eventually, if not right away, they're going to fall and crash to the ground, and that's an expensive mistake. All right, as you can see there, the 18, 24, and 30, 18, 24, 30, and 36 is that single fan outdoor unit, with the 42 and the 48, they go to the dual fan setup. You can see there our capabilities as far as our piping is concerned. Very good. We can go up to 164 feet, up to 36,000 BTUs, and 246 on the 42 and 48. So, really any kind of application we could fit these in. Also low ambient cooling out of the box. So if you wanted to install one of these large cassette systems in a server room application, you could do that as well. We can provide cooling down to -5 degrees. All right, now getting into our multi-zone systems. As you can see now here, we add a 7,000 BTU indoor unit that is going to be available in a compact wall mount, slim duct, and compact cassette. No 7,000 BTU for the floor mount. All right, so we have up to 24,000 BTUs of, as far as the highest BTU indoor unit we can use, and we go down to a 7,000 BTU. The outdoor units, 18,000 BTU. We can connect up to 2 indoor units. Or I'm sorry, we have to connect 2 indoor units. With our multi-zone systems, always have to be 2 indoor units. Going up to the 24, we can do 2 to 3 indoor units. The 36, we can do 2 to 4. The 45, we can do 2 to 5. The 48,000 has really been superseded at this point by the J series equipment. So I don't even think there are any of those left in existence, at least for sale. We might run into those as far as the service side of things, but as of right now, I don't believe there are any more available for sale. But just mentioning it because it's there. These systems are able to provide cooling down to 14 degrees, heating all the way down to 5 degrees. That's our rated capacity. If we opt for the if we opt for the XLTH, we could do down to -15 degrees for these units. Not for the 45 though. The 45 does not have an XLTH. Okay, so our connected capacities are always going to be the most important thing when sizing our equipment. We want to make sure that we stay between that 80 to 130% connected capacity. The Fujitsu full line brochure is going to go over that. You can see your connected capacities. I believe it's on pages 63 and 64 of the full line brochure. It'll give you a complete breakdown of what size indoor units you can use with each individual outdoor unit. All right, so we have the ability to connect 2 to 5 indoor units with connected capacities from 14 all the way up to 54,000. But we always want to make sure that we are sizing our line sets correctly. All right, flex multi, we're not really going to talk about there. So let's just move on from there. So slim duct, compact, easy to hide, wall mounts, traditional systems. We've seen those all over the place. We have our cassettes, which we spoke about. They fit in a drop ceiling. Our floor mounted units for those who don't want to see it on the wall. All right. So getting to our outdoor units and the units that we can connect to them. As far as the indoors are concerned, everything in the Fujitsu manual is going to be color coded. So as you can see here, the 18,000 BTU system is going to have that yellow border around it. So anything in yellow, we are going to be able to hook up to this piece of equipment. All right. We want to always stay within Fujitsu's guidelines. 24, same thing, now in blue. All right, moving to the quad zone, anything in red, and then moving to the 45. Anything in there that you can see in green.
Excuse me, Rob.
Yes.
So the gentleman asked, can I mix and match, or do all the units have to be?
Yeah, so all of our systems have mix and match flexibility. That was actually the next thing that I was going to get to.
My bad, sorry.
That's okay. Which means if you want to put a wall mount unit in one room and a ceiling cassette in another room, and then have a ducted unit on the other side of the house, and then which one did I miss there? Did I say floor mount? Floor mount.
Yeah.
So yeah, you have the ability to, as long as we fall into the correct BTU range, we can mix and match our indoor units with impunity. All right, so where are we going to find that multi-zone information? Fujitsu full line brochure is going to be our best tool as far as compatibilities, combinations, BTU, SEER rating, HSPF, what size breaker we're going to need, what size wire do we have to use, pre-charge lengths, total lengths for our copper lines, minimum, maximum, you name it, it's all going to be found in our Fujitsu full line brochure. All right, so as you can see here, our 18, our 24, our 36, and our 45, we have specific ground rules that we have to go by strictly. These are all tested. These are all tested by Fujitsu to work. On the 18,000 BTU unit, we can connect from 14,000 to 21,000 BTUs. So we could do 2 7s on this unit. We could do a 7 and a 12, even though it's 19. We could even do a 12 and a 9, because even though that reaches 21,000 BTUs, that modulation is really what Fujitsu kind of banks on. We're not going to be operating at 100% capacity all the time. We may not ever really operate at 100% capacity except for on initial startup on a really hot day. So for the most part, they're very comfortable in saying we can go a little bit over what that BTU rating on the outdoor is. Moving on to the 24, you can see we could go up to 27,000 BTUs. On the 36, up to 39,000 BTUs. And on the 45, we could go all the way up to 54,000 BTUs. All right, so very good as far as our connected capacities are concerned. All right, in order to access the contracted tools, we go to FujitsuGeneral.com, which actually is going to be superseded shortly, right, Jimmy?
It's going to happen this year, yes.
Yeah. So there will be changes coming up to the Fujitsu portal. We will keep you up to date as those changes start to occur. But as of right now, the FujitsuGeneral.com page is still up and running. Well, actually not as of last night. They were having a little bit of a hiccup, but hopefully they got that figured out today. Our allowable combinations, this is what I was talking about before on pages, I believe, 63 and 64 of the full line brochure. As you can see there, you have your 18,000, 24,000, 36,000, 36,000 H series. You have all of those units listed, and then all of the connected capacities as well. So if, like I mentioned before, on the 18, we could do 7 and 7 with 14,000 BTUs. We could do 9 and 12 with 21,000 BTUs, and then the same thing along the rest of the lineup. Now, throughout Fujitsu's full line brochure, you're going to notice quite frequently, actually, there's going to be different kinds of symbols that you're going to find, asterisks, numbers, other types of symbols. Usually when you see something like that, it means there's some sort of accessory kit you have to also purchase to make sure that you are compatible with this equipment. So in this case here, on the 36,000 BTU system, it's only going to recognize one dual system setup, and that's going to be with two 18,000 BTU indoor units. If you're not familiar with how the 36,000 BTU unit is, it has 4 ports at the outdoor unit. One of them is going to be half-inch quarter, half-inch quarter, and then the other ones are all going to be 3/8 quarter. The indoor unit, 18,000 BTUs, are all going to be half-inch quarter. So we're actually going to have to adapt the copper at the outdoor unit to match the size of the indoor unit. So that's what we're showing you here at the top of the page, this 1818. Notice that it has an asterisk next to it. What is that for? Well, that means we're going to go to the bottom of the page, read the fine print, and find out what it is. And in this case, we're going to have this K9FZ1818. Basically, it's a brass fitting setup that helps you to adapt the copper to that size. We don't want to run a smaller sized copper up to the unit. We want to adapt at the outdoor unit and run the proper size piping up to the indoor unit. So keep that in mind if you're going to go with this setup. Any application with the AOU 36, where we're using tools, two indoor units, dual zone, it's only going to recognize 1818. All right, so keep that in mind. Also on your full line brochure towards the back, you'll see our nominal capacities, SEER and HSPF ratings. This is going to be the details for what we have for our multi-zone systems, 18,000 BTU. What if we're using non-ducted units, or we're using only ducted units, or we're using mixed, both ducted and non-ducted? This is going to be able to give you our SEER ratings and capacities for those exact setups. So you have the ability to kind of take a look at that. If you do want more detail, say, they're only giving us, we're looking at the 36,000 BTU, they're only giving us 4 9s. Well, what if we're doing a 7, a 12, and 2 9s? It's going to change things a little bit. We can find that information on the Fujitsu portal under that product information in the design and technical manual once again. So you do have the ability to check that out if that's something that you're looking to do. Also gives you our coefficient of performance too. You might need that in case of rebates. Okay, getting to the ultra low temperature heating units. As I said earlier, we have that metal fan guard, a base heater. We have the base drainage holes. When the base heater is enabled, if there's some sort of frost at the outdoor unit, that's going to melt, become water. We don't want that to gather in the pan, so we have our base heater and base drain holes to allow the water to flow off of that base. Okay, this is installed by Fujitsu. There's nothing that you have to do to activate this piece of equipment. It's already there, unlike our competitors that do not offer that right out of the box. That's an accessory you have to add. All right. So we have our single zone systems, 18, 24, and 30. And then our multi-zone systems as well, 2 to 4 indoor units, all available for XLTH, -15 heating capacity. Those are all Energy Star units as well. All right, here you can see the 18 and the 24 Energy Star, above 18 SEER, above 10 HSPF. Once again, our ASU 30, great for commercial lead lag applications. 2 to 4 connected units on our 18, 24, and 36,000 BTU, down to -15 heating. Remember, the 45,000 BTU does not have that XLTH option. Then we have our accessory remote controls. We have our standard remote control on the left and our wired remote control with the multiple units feature. So group control we can do on the one on the right, up to 8 indoor units. All right, those are both 3-wire setups, both very simple on the remotes. The one on the right is going to feature a backlit display, so it's kind of a little bit nicer to look at. Both provide basically the same kind of features. Getting to our simple remote. You might see these simple remotes in like hotel applications or something like that, where the building manager or building owner does not want the end user to be able to do too much with the equipment. It's basically going to give you a start, stop, control the temperature, control the mode, maybe control the fan, and that's really about it. All right, remote sensors, we can have those for, if we're looking to read multiple room temperatures, all right, say in a ducted system or whatever, we can mount these on the wall. This is for, mostly for the slim ducted units, and it just replaces room temperature sensor in the return. So basically we're no longer sensing from the unit, we're sensing from these remote sensors. All right, then we get into our 2-wire controls. Once again, same thing. We're going to have a simple remote control, basic functions on that. Then we go to the over to the right-hand side. We got the RNR UZ1, which is going to be able to give you a indoor temperature reading. And once again, that's a large backlit display, a little bit more, a little bit nicer to look at. Wireless remote control. Standard, we can, we have a couple of different designs for those. That's for spaces where we don't want to use a wired remote or wall mount unit, something like that. Central controller, we can control up to 8 indoor units, set temperatures, timers, and all that right from the unit itself. And then we have our receiver unit, which I had mentioned earlier when talking about the slim duct and the medium static ducted units. We can hook this little receiver up. It's about the size of a standard wall switch receptacle cover, mounted right on the wall. There's a wire that comes with it that plugs right into the board on certain pieces of equipment, mostly the slim ducted units and the medium static ducted units. And that allows us to operate those pieces of equipment with the handheld remote instead. All right. Always keep in mind, there's going to be a remote control that ships with most of our units. Make sure that fits what application we're going to be installing in. If it's something that we might need to change, that's a part that's going to have to be ordered as an accessory. All right. Getting into the Wi-Fi, the FJAC Wi-Fi 1. This is an Intesis cloud control device. Basically plugs right into our board, uses a 12-volt power supply, 12 volts DC. Power supplied through the interface cable that comes with it. And basically that is going to allow you the ability to plug into the board and now control any number of our indoor units with the using the Intesis cloud control app. All right, so if you're used to installing like a Nest thermostat or something along those lines, that this is basically going to be, along the same lines. We now have the ability to control through an app. This specific interface kit here will attach to these units. You will find this information in the Fujitsu full line brochure. If you want to take a quick screenshot of it, you can do so, but you do have the ability to find that in the Fujitsu full line brochure under the accessories chart. Look into which unit you're installing and see which of these Wi-Fi devices will connect to that unit. All right, getting over to the building management side, we have our Modbus building management system. All right, this is quick and easy installation, just like the other one, another very small part, roughly about yay big, maybe 3 inches at most. Gives total control to the building management system, so you can control it through the Modbus building management system. You can adjust anything from dual heat, cooling set points, runtime counter, error indication, all that. Those displays will be sent to the building management system. If you are looking at a backnet system, we have an adapter for that as well, just like the Modbus system. The FGAC BAC1L does the same thing for a backnet system. And there you can see the system compatibility with that. And then we get into the rest of our accessories, dry contact kits, interface kits, 3-pole switch down at the bottom. I don't know if you guys are using 3-pole switches, but coming soon to a code enforcer near you, you're going to have to install these switches by the indoor unit to kill power in the case you need to service the equipment. A lot of our inspectors are starting to ask for these sort of things, so keep in mind that that may be something that you'll have to do in the near future. And then we have fresh air intake kits. All right, so fresh air from the outdoor, we can pull it right into the indoor unit and circulate it throughout the room through a couple of different pieces of equipment that we have. The ceiling cassettes do that, some of the ducted units as well. Fresh air intake kits, shutter plates. So if we have if we're looking at the large cassette systems, with the large cassettes, we do have the ability to shut down, one or more of the air outlets on the unit itself. So if we are, say we're mounted close to a wall, we don't need to throw heat or cooling at that wall. We could just put that shutter plate there. Also with those units, we have the ability to run, excuse me, my throat's getting dry here. We do have the ability to run one small outlet off of those units as well. All right, now brand new, something we've been asking for a long time, finally announced in 2020 in November. We have wind baffle kits. All right, so in a lot of trainings, guys would ask us if we had these. We always had to say, unfortunately, no, you have to either make something or go with a third party. But finally, Fujitsu has released them. There's a couple of different models. Just go by which outdoor unit you have, and you can select the wind baffle that you're looking to get. And basically, also available for J series as well. Basically, the use for these is what's called windmilling. If you have roughly 25 mile/hour winds pushing on the fan, blowing it in a backwards direction, you could end up causing a communication error on your system, which would have to be reset. Nuisance service call to have to go out and flip the switch to restart this piece of equipment and reset the code. The wind baffles will prevent that from happening. Thank you, Eric. All right, installation is very simple. You're basically using the screws that already exist on the unit. You're just popping them off and putting that wind baffle in and putting them back in. So very simple, easy application to install. Getting to function settings, there's a whole bunch of different ones that we use. Customize the install for what the end user is going to need it to be. So filter interval indicator, one of the common ones that we use if we wanted to make it a long interval, a short interval, whatever it may be. We can change things, high ceiling mode, as I talked about before. If we have a unit that's mounted high on a wall and it's testing temperatures up there at 78 degrees, but down where the people are actually hanging out, it's 72 degrees. By setting that high ceiling mode, we now have the ability to change that setting there. We also have static pressure, which is going to be one of the most common function settings that we're going to use anytime we're installing a slim ducted unit. We're going to have to go in there and adjust our static pressure. That's function code 26. And then, just going through the line there, you can see which type of indoor unit can use which type of code and so on and so forth. All right. So getting to that filter, we have our standard, we have our long setting, we have our short interval, and we also have the no indication. When we look in our installation manuals, that little black diamond there that you see next to the no indication, that's going to be what the factory setting is going to be. So keep that in mind. From the factory, there is no function setting for indication of filter cleaning. You have to set that at install. All right, and then you can see the breakdown there. Standard is 400 hours, long interval is 1,000, short interval is 200. I always went with once every 30 days, except for if you're in a really dirty environment like a shop or, your metal shop or a wood shop or something along those lines. Those you might want to, clean out weekly. One of the things I didn't really use too much when I was out in the field, but it's there as a reminder to the end user. All right, so getting into static pressures, you can see here our factory setting would be setting value 31, function number 26, and basically we're going to figure out the static of our ducted system and then plug that into our remote. This way the indoor unit knows at which setting it needs to operate to compensate for static pressure in the system. All right. Here's just another way to look at it. This is through a chart. You can see your setting numbers across the top, your function setting for static pressure right there in the middle. We can go up to 0.36 on the 9 and 18, and up to 20 on the 24,000. All right, so we do lose a little bit of static on the larger system there. All right, so efficiency comparison. What is SEER? That's the seasonal energy efficiency ratio. It's basically a metric to figure out how much a cooling system puts out for each unit of energy that it consumes. All right, the higher the SEER rating, obviously, the more the more efficient that unit's going to operate. The LZS and LZAH are among the most efficient products in North America, especially on the heating side. There may be some competitors that beat us on the SEER, but they don't come close to us as far as the HSPF is concerned. All right, so 33-point SEER on those units. So HSPF, as I mentioned earlier, is heating seasonal performance factor, and that's basically testing the showing the heating efficiency of heat pump systems. So on our LZ series, we have an HSPF of 14.2. That's tops in the industry. Any heat pump that's manufactured after January 2015 is required to have at least an HSPF of 8.2. All right, so anything that was produced after 2015 will have that. And then remember, the higher the HSPF, the higher the efficiency of the unit. So why Fujitsu mini splits? One of the main reasons, besides the convenience, the zoning, one of the main things that we're focusing on here in America and worldwide is strategic electrification. As you can see here from the charts, we're looking at about 25% of homes are electric in America right now, and then they break it down by territory. You can see here in the Northeast, we are mostly in the natural gas range, but that's something that we could start to get away from as well. All right, so you can see from this chart here, down south, right around 20% of cold weather heat pump, 20% of homes are using electric as their source of heat, and our heat pump technology is really going to start to impact those environments. All right. Overall market, this is a breakdown of equipment. I believe this was as of 2018. You can see VRF and mini splits down here at the bottom of the screen. We're going to be looking at right around 7%. Split systems AC, split systems heat pumps, 15, 30% respectively. So standard unitary equipment really is about 45% of the market there. And then we have furnaces, we have portable AC units, PTACs, and all that other stuff that takes up the rest of the chart. Pull that little slice out, that's us right there. But that's something that has been changing and changing very quickly over the course of the last 5-10 years. All right, so if you take a look at comparisons, the USA, between 7 and 8% of equipment purchased is mini split heat pump or VRF equipment. And you look at the rest of the world, Japan is at 90%, China at 85%, and Europe at 85% mini split. So huge difference. We are always late to the parade on everything. It's just how we do things. We're very slow to adapt to changes worldwide, but this is something that's really going to start to take effect with this strategic electrification. So as far as 2018 was concerned, we saw a 16% rise in mini split sales and a 22% rise as far as VRF equipment was concerned. So you can see how we're changing very rapidly. And then you compare to the unitary equipment, which saw only a 7% rise. All right, so growing exponentially. So initiatives in place right now, we're trying to basically get to net zero. We want to use, basically no, carbon producing forms of energy. Strategic electrification really is the future initiative that we're looking at here. And basically that is overall just, trying to get everything over to a wind and solar, a cleaner energy factor that we can use to, for everything from electric vehicles to, heating and cooling our homes, basically anything you think of. Well, most of the stuff that, most of the energy that we use in America comes from fossil fuels in one way, shape, or form. And we're really trying to get away from that now. So basically that reduction in use of fossil fuels and the increase in high efficiency heat pumps. So this is something that we are moving towards very rapidly, something that you guys want to try to really focus on, moving towards, because that's where the industry is moving towards. We're getting away from that old unitary equipment. All right, so we take a look here in America, two biggest factors of fossil fuel usage: transportation, 44%, and then we get into buildings, whether it's residential or commercial, we're looking at 46%. So that makes up roughly 90% of the fossil fuel usage in this country. And by eliminating that with electric vehicles and heat pumps and switching to solar and wind powered electricity, we are now able to get ourselves a lot further away from that old carbon footprint that we're leaving. All right, so this is this is in New York, New England, not all of America. This is just right here in our territory. So if you take a look here at this chart, we're looking at 185 cities have committed to 80% CO2 reduction by year 2050. So 80% less carbon production. And you can see right there on the map, all those yellow dots, that's a city that has signed up for this and are committed to 80% reduction by 2050. Because of this, they're being very aggressive as far as rebates are concerned. You can find a whole bunch of different rebates, tax credits, and such going to, in our territory, it's the NEAP website, as well as, local and federal. All right, just some recent activities in California, New York, and Massachusetts, just showing that we are moving in that direction. This is really the time to get into the heat pump technology. So why are we doing this? And it's basically, there's a, concern about our ever changing climate, we're getting warmer, and it's starting to get to the point where it's becoming a major concern, and something has to be done, not, tomorrow, but right now. So that's why there's such a big push for this at the moment. All right, so why are heat pumps part of that solution? All right, the entire grid is getting cleaner. We are now producing a lot more solar energy. We are now producing a lot more wind energy. That, coupled with the equipment that we're installing when we're installing mini split technology, is a lot more efficient. So we need to use less of the energy that this is producing. All right. So Fujitsu products, basically the perfect fit for this scenario. So what can we draw from this? Electrification means we need to install more. This is where we're going. There is no better time to get started on this than right now, because the rocket's taking off. I follow stocks, and people, when they start to talk about a stock is about to take off, they compare it to a rocket. Well, same thing with this technology here, same thing with these pieces of equipment. It's going to take off, and if you're late to that parade, you're going to be behind. So, try to get yourself in as early as possible. All right. So, what's the value? Well, this, as we said before, the industry is growing. We have very high efficiency on our equipment. Zoning, all right, zoning is going to be a huge thing. We're going to get into that right now. And the education is going to be essential. So having us here at Wales Derby, always here for you. If you need to contact us, we want to train you. We want to get in front of you. We want to help you out in any way we can. All right, so we want to make sure that we do that, and we keep you guys trained and know what's coming in the near future. You can also follow us on HVAC Insiders. That is a website that was produced by our group here at Wales Derby. You can find all of our training videos there as well. We get into detail on all of the products that we provide. Plus, we even have things such as sales. We could provide basically any kind of training you need to further advance yourself in the field. And we're here for you at all times. So, please check that out. All right. So, if you take a look here on this chart, basically what this is telling you is nearly 50% of all of our home energy costs are from heating and cooling. All right. You see that breakdown right there. So if you take a look on the right-hand side, it says on average, utilities about $4,200 a year. We can cut down on that by approximately $1,000 a year, depending on the installation, of course. And that is basically by cutting the usage of your heating and cooling costs down to half, basically. All right. So one of the things with our equipment, one of the main selling points. This is the selling point that I use to to my own wife. As Jim would say, you want to make sure that you could sell your wife, sell your grandma.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is the exact pitch that I use. So me and my wife, we have discussions quite frequently on stuff around the house and concerns that I have, and one of the things that we had spoken about when she first got pregnant was the fact that we like to sleep in our room at 66 degrees in the summertime. Yeah, we have ridiculous electric bills in the summertime, but that's neither here nor there. So, this was my selling point to her is, well, you know what, we can still have that, which we haven't done yet, but that's besides the fact. We could still have our 66 degrees and still have our son, who's now a little more than almost a year and a half old, actually. He can have his own climate in his own room. And that's what we're selling when we're selling zoning. We're selling individual climates to each home. So we're 66, we're comfortable. He's 70, he's comfortable. Her parents are staying, the in-laws are staying in the spare bedroom. They may like it at 74 degrees. Old blood runs a little bit thinner, right, Jim?
Excuse me? Excuse me, Robert?
Sorry, I don't mean to pick on you, Jimmy.
Oh, you can't. Trust me on that one.
They might be comfortable at 72, so they can set their room to 72 degrees, and that's zoning. That's what we're able to do, and we could do it without a ducted system that gets overcomplicated with zone dampers and such. So multi-room zoning is one of the big selling points of this equipment. We can control temperature throughout the house in different rooms, different temperatures, and everybody can be happy at the same time. So looking at the chart on the right-hand side, where do we spend most of our time? Obviously, that's going to be in the bedroom because that's where we're sleeping. Not really too much time throughout the rest of the house, as we don't have much time in the day once we're home from work. 4 or 5 hours in the rest of the house, and then we're off to bed for the next 8, 9 hours. So when we have 40% of our rooms unoccupied most of the time, we don't need to keep those systems on. So let's take the point of my guest bedroom. How often is somebody staying in there? Once every couple months since COVID, we haven't had one person stay there. So if I had a mini split system in my house, I could shut that unit completely off. I don't need to use the energy. Shut the door and call it a day. I don't need it. So there's savings there. Or you can set it to a higher setting. Maybe you just want to make sure that we're removing humidity from the room. So we set it to 74, 76. At least we can maintain that, the humidity level in there. But, basically the sky's the limit when it comes to zoning. Fujitsu equipment, providing year-round comfort, right? That's what we're selling. We're selling comfort. Wintertime, we have heating. Springtime, we can, we could be moving from heating to cooling to fan-only situations. Summertime, cooling. Fall, same thing, could be heating and cooling depending on time of day. But we have the ability to do so all within one energy efficient unit. All right. Another thing, very easy to install. We don't have a large ducted system to install. So we set the indoor unit, we set the outdoor unit, we run the pipes, wire, and condensate drains between the two, connect everything up, leak test, evacuate, start up, see you later. Very simple on the installation. Some of the units can be hidden, all right? You can mix and match anything you need, anything you want. Another benefit to this, my son would attest to this if I had actually purchased his Fujitsu equipment. All right, he would be able to sleep comfortably and he wouldn't hear the equipment in the room because it's very quiet. Also, on the outdoor unit side, very quiet. Your neighbors, if you live very close to your neighbors, they're not going to ever complain about the amount of noise that's produced with the system. All right, look how comfortable that baby is. That baby right there should make you want to sell Fujitsu today. All right, so applications. I mean, basically at this point in time, we can do just about anything you can imagine, anything that you could ask for. from fast food restaurants to multifamily housing to office buildings to homes to single rooms, garages, car washes, you name it. We can handle all of those environments. Here's a cassette in a conference room. Restaurant, we could go with a wall-mounted unit. Hotel room, ducted unit, all right? Remember I said that area right above the door, usually a little bit lower of a ceiling. That's where that slim ducted unit could be located, all right? And then you have your 2 supplies here, I believe, and then the return is out over here, or, you know, any kind of, as long as you're getting the supply and return in there, you know, basically that's what you're looking at. Residential homes, wall mounts, floor mounts, ducted units, cassettes. All right, and basically requirements for that design: pair of insulated pipes, line voltage to the outdoor unit, 14.3 communicator, condensate drain, and that's it. Our equipment can be controlled by the FGL Air app. Okay, we can hook up with this little guy over here, the UTY TFNXZ2, and you know, basically be able to control our indoor unit through an app. And that is the end of the first portion. I know that was a long one. I'm going to turn this over to Jim. He's going to take over for the second half, and then for the second part, rather. For the third part, I will return so you guys get to see my my ugly mug again, and I can lull you to sleep with the sound of my voice. All right, so we're going to take a 5-minute break, and then Jim is going to take over for the second half. All right, so thank you, and we'll see you in 5.
Okay, everybody. We should be back. My name is Jim DePalma. We are doing module number 2. This has to do with our training, our tools and marketing. Tools and marketing, what is that for you guys? The Fujitsu portal, the Fujitsu catalog. Those are great tools for you. Those are tools for you to grab information on any of our equipment that we currently have for sale and for equipment that's been retired. So if you are going out to service a piece of equipment that we haven't made in 10 years, you can still get all the manuals you need. You get that via the Fujitsu portal. Any current manuals that you need, as Rob alluded to earlier today about design and technical manuals, you get them from the Fujitsu portal. The Fujitsu catalog is a great sales tool for you, as is the portal, and that's what we're going to talk about right now in this section. All right, Robbie, please click on that, please, so I have control. One more time. All right.
Good.
All right, here we go. Back up. All right. So our Fujitsu website, very important, fujitsugeneral.com. You can direct your customers there. I have contractors when they're on the job trying to sell Mr. or Mrs. Smith on a Fujitsu system. We'll bring them to the website. And on the website is all the information your customer would want to know about. If they have questions as to efficiencies, rebates, what's available for me. Mrs. Smith is not happy with putting a unit up on the wall like that. You can show her different options. And this is all on the general website. You don't need any special passwords or anything like that. So when you look on the website, it'll look like this. You'll see a residential side. You'll see a commercial side. So we're going to focus on the residential first. We click on the residential. Now you have the ability to use this as a prompting tool for yourself and explaining to Mr. or Mrs. Smith what the equipment does, how it works, and what it's going to do for them. Always remember what's in it for your customer. All right, if I'm putting this equipment in, what am I gaining from it? I'm getting heating, I'm getting cooling, I do a multi-head system, I'm getting zoning. Zoning is comfort, never ever forget that. And the efficiencies. Rebates are great, rebates are available. I would never always sell based on a rebate only, because rebates can come and go. But the energy savings and the comfort will always stay with the Fujitsu equipment. So this is what this area will talk about here. And you can use that again as your selling tool. I know a lot of you guys don't do what we do when we stand in front of a group and go through selling. And it's something you would have to practice, but you can do that with this website. If you didn't have access to the website, the Fujitsu catalog itself also can take you through the opening pages. Will also explain the benefits, the technology, the products, that we have, and we'll even talk about energy savings and all of that. So we give you those tools there. You want to use them. You just don't want to be the guy who shows up and says, well, here, use this. And you want to be the guy who's going to educate your customer. Educating your customer is the best way to get that end sale. All right. Please remember that. Educating them will help you get the sale, because you're going to prompt them to make the decision that they're comfortable with. And that's going to get you the sale. Okay. And if you can't tell, I'm really big on that. I really want you guys to take advantage of this. So if you click on the benefits tab, it goes through all the information that you see popping up on the screen. These are the things that you can talk about. Rob alluded to most of them on here, the efficiencies, all right? And you have to be able to explain to your customer why we're efficient. How do we operate? So that is explained in the catalog. That is explained on the website, but everybody should be able to explain how a Fujitsu system operates, even if you're talking to my 95-year-old mom. Okay, so gentlemen, in a brief nutshell, how does a Fujitsu system operate? It's going to monitor outdoor temperature, it's going to monitor indoor temperature, it's going to monitor the refrigerant temperature, and it's going to ramp up and down based on those different temperature settings. If you want to really break it down, it's like cruise control in your car. I'm going to monitor outdoor, monitor indoor. If it gets warmer or colder outside, I put more energy into the home to keep that comfort level. If it's cooler outside, I put less energy to keep the home comfortable. That's basically it. So if I have a weather adapting system and a system that also adapts to the indoor environment, we put more and more people into the room, the indoor unit's going to sense that. The unit will pick up on that, tell the outdoor unit, I need more power, basically, I need more effort, and the outdoor unit will respond. That's how Fujitsu systems work. So these type of benefits are described here on the Fujitsu system website. Okay. Technology, this will break into, I'm sorry, back up. Technology will break into what's available, what we have available to you. It'll go over what I just talked about. You want to review this before you go in there in front of Mr. and Mrs. Smith, right? Make sure you're comfortable with it and you can explain it to them clearly. So if you click on the technology, that's another prompt to help you talk about our equipment. If you're looking at a commercial application, all right, we have our commercial tab. We'll give you the same information, but in the world of commercial, obviously they're looking for different information. And in the world of commercial, who are you talking to? Are you talking to the actual building owner, the guy who's paying for the building, owns the building? You know, what does he want? Are you talking to an architect or an engineer, the people who are designing the HVAC or the layout of the building? Those two people are very important, especially architects nowadays, because with our mini split equipment, all right, we don't need these big chases between multiple floors in these commercial buildings. So ceiling height gets to increase, the square footage gets to increase, and then that equates to the building owner as more square footage, more rent he can charge. Those things really come into play here. So the architect, the engineer, if you're going to talk to them, you want to be able to talk about the things that they're interested in. The building owner, he's going to be interested in overall cost of operation, energy savings, and maintenance of the equipment. So that's on the commercial tab. We can also get into our air stage area. This is part of the commercial. Air stage is our VRF equipment, which is either heat pump or heat recovery. If we're doing heat recovery, that means we're using these boxes called RBU boxes that are stationed throughout the building. It's a 3-pipe system. And that means in one section of the building, one section on a particular floor, I can have heating running and cooling running both at the same time. The 3rd pipe is capturing the hot gas that would be normally returning to the outdoor unit, and we would divert that through a solenoid valve via the RBU boxes to another indoor unit that's cooling for heating. So that's how I can heat and cool at the same time. That's our heat recovery equipment. Otherwise, a lot of our commercial equipment that goes in on the VRF side still is heat pump. That means we're heating only or cooling only. But if I need heat recovery, we can do that also. That's what we're talking about on the air stage side. All right, more of the benefits, all right, the efficiencies, the reliability, service and maintenance, it's all explained there. Now, another tool for you guys, which is really important, is with the Fujitsu Mobile Technician. This is a troubleshooting app, and it's a free download that works on Androids and/or an iPhone. And it's something that we use here every day at Wales Derby, because myself, Rob, John Resso, over here on the New Jersey side, Anthony Tassi, Rick Coster on the New York side, we are all TSAs for Fujitsu. We back up our TSAs to our wholesalers. We back up the technical support team that Fujitsu has for you here. And we all use this app, and this app is fantastic. On your phone, you would download Mobile Technician. So Eric, if we could get into that. All right, so here this is on my phone, and when I open it up, it's going to come to this screen. And on the top of the screen, you're going to see a toolbox. And you'll also see right here where it'll say rack/pack VRF. All right, and a couple other items here. What I want to go to first is the toolbox, which is right on the top. And when I go to the toolbox, let me see if we're not getting any glare here. That looks pretty good.
Down a little bit, yeah.
Down a little bit, all right.
Yeah.
Down a little bit, and maybe straight. How's that? Ooh, there we go.
Yeah.
So when I hit the toolbox, I can click on thermistor, any pressure switches, a PT chart. I can go there and use this to find any values if I need to ohm out any thermistors. We have thermistors all over our equipment. This is how we gather information and bring it into the IPM module so it can figure out how to pulse the DC to the different components on our equipment, which cause an effect, which change a temperature or a fan speed. So if I'm looking for any value, I'm going to find that on a thermistor. So if I put in a room temperature, if I'm needing to ohm out a thermistor, I need to know the ambient air temperature. So let's say it was 68 degrees, and I put that in there and I click done. It's going to show me the voltage I should be seeing. Whoop, let me get down here. I'm sorry. It'll show me the voltage that I should be seeing coming from the board. It'll also show me the resistance reading I should be reading off of my meter. This is the same thing you get in your troubleshooting tips in the paper version that you would normally get when we come to a 101 or a teardown class. So download Fujitsu Mobile Technician on your phone. You have all this information right away. I'm going to back up again, and I'm going to go to the PT chart. The PT chart we use a lot because this is how we find out if I'm really charged correctly. And when I click PT chart, I'm going to see a 410A icon. And if I click on the 410A, right, and I put in my air temperature, my outdoor air temperature. So let's say for argument's sake right now, it's about 55 degrees. And I hit done. My outdoor unit, now if I put my gauges on there, I hope you can see that, should be sitting there at 156 PSI. And if my outdoor unit is not sitting there at that PSI, I have a charge issue. Because on occasion, you will run into a situation where the unit's not operating correctly. It'll come on, it'll ramp up, go through a cycle. The next call for either heat or cool, the unit will cycle up and cycle right back down again, will not throw an error code. That could be that I'm low on charge. I've got too much temperature on my compressor and the unit's actually trying to protect itself. But that won't give you an error code. So the PT chart on this mobile technician, very, very important. If you're running a Android phone, we have a Wi-Fi analyzer on there. Unfortunately, not available yet for, I'm trying to get that glare out of there, not available yet for Apple. All right, but what this Wi-Fi analyzer does for you is when I do go to a job and maybe we're having some can't get the word out. Connectivity. Thank you, Rob. Connectivity issue between my equipment and their Wi-Fi system at home. I can use this to show what is on the system, what's the strength of their signal, and see if they actually don't have a strong enough signal. Our equipment will work fine, but their Wi-Fi connection is not strong enough to work with us, and that could be the root of the problem. Very, very important tool, okay? So that is the Fujitsu Mobile Technician. You do want to take advantage of that, okay? Again, it's a free download for Apple or Android. Download it today. That's the screen that I showed you just a second ago. We want to go to rack/pack. That's how you get to the Halcyon equipment. Obviously, I would go to VRF if I'm dealing with any of that equipment. All right. So on the utility, you can see where I can go for thermistors or the PT chart. All right. Again, that's how you can find any of your thermistors. Any of the thermistors that are on our system will be on this mobile app. I click on any one of them, and that's when I can go through the testing procedure, putting in actual ambient air temperature, whatever I'm working in, and that would then populate my resistor reading and my voltage reading. Sometimes we'll check our voltages going to the thermistor instead of ohming it out. So if the voltage isn't fine coming from the board to that thermistor, then that would tell us that it's, a board problem. We'd have to change the board. Okay. All righty. All right, we click back here to get back to the home page, and we can go through any and all testing that we're doing. If I do get, now let's show you this, because this is my favorite part of this. Going back to it, Eric.
Yep.
So I'm going to go to rack/pack, and I'm going to pick, let me do this. This is a little wonky, but I'm trying my best, guys. I'm going to go to an outdoor unit first. And there's a search bar that comes up on top. And this is a global app. So you're going to see equipment on here that we don't sell in the States. So in my search bar, I'm going to put in AOU, and I'm going to hit done. All right, and now what's going to come up on here are all the different outdoor units that we have available for us in the States. So I'm going to pick a 24 RLXF WH, extended heating range, okay? And then for my indoor type, I'm going to pick a wall mount. All right. I apologize if this looks a little wonky. We're doing our best. So I'm picking a wall mount, okay? And I'm clicking done. Now at this point, it's showing me, if I have a wired remote, I can click on that to see what the error code is, or I can go to my indoor unit LED. Those are the 3 flashing lights on all of our indoor wall units. So I'm going to click on that. And then here's what you're going to see. I call this the slot machine. So if we take a good look, you'll see that I've got the 3 lights, all right? And I got the 1 continuous light, and then I got my 2 other lights. And you see arrows, there's up and down arrows. So what we tell you traditionally was you had to look at each light separately and count the number of blinks. So here, I'm just going to go to my operation light. That's the first one. And if I see 3 blinks, I'm going to click it so it shows 3. It automatically readdresses the timer light to 2, and the economy light is now continuous, and it's telling me I've got an indoor unit main PCB error. Okay, I'm going to click on done. It's giving me the same information again on the top. I'm going to click on that, and now it's giving me, let's see, as best we can, it's actually giving me the flow chart right out of the design and tech manual of how to troubleshoot that error. Okay. So if you call any of us on the phone, I'm sorry?
Service instructions.
Service instructions, my bad. Thank you, Rob. All right. So right out of service instructions. So if you call us and you're saying, hey, I got this many lights blinking and all that kind of stuff. Okay. Once we identify what the unit is, we're going to recreate what you're seeing on here, and that will tell us what we have to do. So it's a great app. We use it all the time. Contractors that we see in class after the fact tell us that the app really helps them out there in the field. And as I tell everybody, use this app. And at this point, once you've identified the problem, and maybe you're not 100% sure how to proceed from there, at least if you're talking to a TSA or tech support at Fujitsu, they now understand what you're looking at and can help you get off the job much quicker. You had a question, Robbie?
Yes. Going back to the PT chart, I just have somebody asking a question. He wants to know how to change from Celsius to Fahrenheit.
Well, when you set up the app, you set up your parameters, and you can change it to read Fahrenheit right at the beginning. So when you download the app, you got to register it, and you can set up your parameters from there. The other cool thing about the mobile app is that every time you open it up, or even if you haven't opened it up, say for a few days, it's always going to check for updates. All right. And so you can click on update and it'll update. So it's always fresh. All right. Anything new that Fujitsu has come out with and they update the app, you don't have to look for these updates. The updates will look for you. So if you haven't used your Fujitsu Mobile Technician app in a while, open it up. It'll say checking for updates, click yes, and let it update. This way it's completely up to date and fresh for you. Anything else there, Rob? All right. All right, moving forward with this, energy efficiency calculator. This is another good sales tool for you that is located on the Fujitsu portal. So if I go on my Fujitsu portal, I go to products, and this is just on the general website, all right? You don't have to go to your portal page. And the energy efficiency calculator allows you to show Mr. and Mrs. Smith based on their energy bills, all right? Based on their cost of gas, oil, propane, or electric, what their potential savings is if they switch over to a Fujitsu heat pump system. And it takes you step by step through the process. So when you open it up, it's going to look like this, and you would then pick, is it going to be cooling only or heating and cooling? So it looks like in this application, it's going to be heating and cooling. You have to put in the year of the install, you know, ask Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Now, if they're new homeowners, because in this territory right now, we have a lot of people moving out of New York City, coming into the suburbs where we are, and they're buying homes. So you may have to help them get an idea of how old the equipment is. You put that in, get an idea of what the SEER rating or efficiency rating is of the equipment. What type of fuel is it that they're using? Okay, again, install basic efficiency as you can. All right, what am I replacing? How are we delivering heating and cooling to that system? All right, we click submit. Then we put in where they live. All right, so here, right in my territory, it's going to be Jersey, it's going to be Patterson, and the size of the residence, as you can see, and it should populate with their costs. All right, so this is very intuitive. It knows the costs in the different areas of the country. And if anything here has to be changed, if their bills are slightly different, here's where you can make those changes. So it's not based on averages across the country. It's based on what Mr. and Mrs. Smith are using in that home. So if everything lines up here correctly and the numbers are good, you'd hit continue. And then it's telling them on the top of what the results are, that their average operating cost, as you can see here, average operating cost is about $12.50 for cooling and $32.60 for heating. And then in this area here, it would populate, it would pick some Fujitsu equipment here. It's not showing you on this example, but it would pick some equipment there. But it also basically gives the potential savings. And that savings, every time I've used this, and I've used this with contractors, and I just did it on my own home, it's at least 15–20% savings. Okay, that's a very powerful sales tool, gentlemen, because again, you're using Mr. and Mrs. Smith's cost of operation at their home. What does it actually cost? Here are their numbers, plug it in, and here's the potential savings. Now, you may think I'm being coy by saying potential, but again, I'm being really realistic by saying that word because I don't know how Mr. and Mrs. Smith live in their house. Rob alluded to they like to keep the house really cool in the summertime. Summertime in my house is between 72, 75. Wintertime, 68, 67. Some people are 72 in the winter. I don't know, right? And you don't know, but that potential is a pretty good word to use because again, it's based on how they live, all right? So, but that's really good information. That's good information to help Mr. and Mrs. Smith make a smart decision. All right, smart buying decision. Now there's a rebate tab on our website also. If I go to the rebate tab, based on where you are in Mr. and Mrs. Smith's house, I put in the zip code, it'll tell me what's available, either local utility or through the government, what's available, what equipment do we have that's getting a rebate and how much that rebate is. That's pretty cool. So you guys don't really even have to stay on top of it, personally, because it's quite hard because we have to do it here and it gets kind of crazy. We go into upstate New York, it's NYSERDA. We are over here in New Jersey, it's PSE&G or what have you. So this website here, the Rebate Center, is a great clearinghouse for this type of information. And you can download the forms right there. All right, and these rebates can be very substantial. My daughter redid her home, and then we put Fujitsu equipment in, and the rebates almost were 50% of the value of the products that she had to buy. We had to put in 2 systems, and almost 50% of it was covered by the rebate. So that's pretty substantial. This is a sales tool for you guys to help you sell equipment. All right, if we're going to be profitable with it, we got to sell the equipment. Where did my tongue go, Rob? Oh, I can't talk today. All right. So what's next here? Contractor Toolbox. Now this is for you guys here. This is how you use the Fujitsu portal to get tech information, to register your equipment, earn points so you get a higher rating when people are looking for a contractor for their particular area for Fujitsu. Who can I call? How you get sales leads. All right, how you sign up for training, all that stuff. You have to be signed up on the Fujitsu portal. So to access it, you're going to go to, as you can see here, https portal.fujitsugeneral.com/login. And this is what it's going to look like. And if it's the first time for you, you're going to have to register. So you click register now, and you're going to use your email. All right, we do not send spam or anything like that. You're going to use your email, and you're going to select what is your role in the company. Are you the principal? Are you the service manager? Are you sales? All right, they do want this type of equipment information. And then you click on the link to start signing up. So you put in your email. You need to confirm your email. Let me back that up. It's a little too fast on the click. So you're going to put in your email, confirm your email, all right, and your code once we send that to you, and you click submit. All right. Now we're going to go to register for training. So once you're on, and now your page opens up when you go to your portal page through Contractor Toolbox, you can see where it says register and install. Every time you install a piece of Fujitsu equipment, you want to register it. Don't leave that in the hands of Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and I'll tell you why. They may forget. Not everybody's as diligent as my wife, who anytime we buy anything that has a registration form, she does it immediately, because that's the way we're going to make sure we have our warranty, and if we're looking for any type of extended warranty. For you guys, you need to accrue 40 points. That means 20 registrations and 20 training points, and we can get you now to elite status. And that gives you a 12-year warranty on your installs. So it gives you advantage because our standard warranty is 7 and 5. If you're working your way toward those 20 installs on a yearly basis and 20 training points that will hold over a 2-year period of time, when you register the equipment within the first 60 days, they now get a 10-year warranty, which was no extra cost to you. It's just the effort of registering the equipment. Takes about 5 minutes. It's not a big deal. Please do it. It's to your advantage. If you sign up for the Fujitsu portal, and once we confirm that you're signed up, and we'll go over that in a second, and now you're looking for your rankings, until you register a piece of equipment, you really don't get ranked yet. So when you do your install, register your equipment, and then you start to get your rankings. All right. Here's where I can sign up for trainings. So we are doing a training today. We consider this a local training, maybe a regional training. But here, when you sign up for trainings, you'll get to this calendar on your portal page, and you can see what Fujitsu's Academy trainings are. And since we are in the New York, New Jersey area, Fujitsu headquarters is located in Pine Brook, New Jersey. A beautiful facility they recently moved into. Great training facility. So if you wanted to take some of their 2-day hands-on trainings, all right, you can sign up for it via your portal page. All right, looking here on the calendar to see what dates are available. Same thing, regional, and if any of your distributors are sponsoring a training. So pre-COVID, we would do tons of trainings through our distributors, the Fergusons, the Johnstones, the Uscos, the Sid Harveys of the world. All right, anybody who is a Fujitsu distributor has the opportunity to do a training. So here's where you could sign up for their sponsored trainings, and you would see your friendly Wales Darby Tech that you see here today in front of you doing those classes. So you can sign up for our 101s, which is what we're doing today, or a teardown class. All right. So you want to go to FujitsuGeneral.com. You want to go to the toolbox. You want to register now. This is what we're showing you here. You want to select what you are, what's your group type. You're going to click on the link. You're going to sign up for the toolbox. Again, you're going to put in your email address. You need to confirm your email address. All right, so anything that's required, you need to fill out. Put in your zip code, as you can see here. Click on the agreement. All right, now your company may pop up, but if not, you can create a new listing. So you can create your company, hit submit. Put in the information. So you're going to need your company name. Obviously, as you can see, you're going to need your company phone number. A little bit of a slow typer here. Rob, are you typing? Is it a 2-finger type? Is that what you're doing?
Nope, not me.
Work with me, Rob. This is kind of like pretty dull stuff they're looking at right now. Just trying to make it entertaining, all right?
You got a dance for it.
No, no dancing. You don't want to see this old man dance, right? Put in your address, put in your zip code, very important, and where you are, okay? Put in the type of business. You've already selected it, so that should be already clicked, but if not, click on it. All right. So if you do residential and commercial, you can obviously do both. Click on that. Type of work you specialize in, we've already done that. Now let's go here. How many trucks? Yeah, they are looking for this information. No big deal. And your job title. Now it's going to be interesting. You set this up and you're the owner and everything, but you can have an admin that's going to run your portal. You have other important things to do in your business. So if you have somebody in your company who's handling your everyday paperwork and what have you, running phones, they can be the admin for your website, for your portal site. Okay. You're going to create a password. You're going to confirm the password. Phone numbers and what have you. Now, the phone number you put in, if it's a work cell phone, that's what you want to put in. Don't necessarily put your office number in, because this will be important when you get to elite status. We want the phone line at Fujitsu at tech support to recognize that you're elite. In this way, you get VIP service. You get to jump ahead on the line. Yes, Rob.
Just add to that, I want to make sure that everybody knows, because we just got the question about having their techs
Yes.
on the portal.
Yes.
As well.
That's coming up. We're getting there. We're actually taking you through the process so you can see how non-painful this is. Does anybody actually use a fax anymore? I don't think so. I'm going to click submit. All right. So once you've done all of that and you've clicked submit, check your email, because you're going to get a response from Fujitsu immediately asking you to confirm your email. And if you don't see that in your inbox right away, what you want to do is go to your trash, go to your spam, all right, and see if it's there. So that's what we're showing you here. You're opening up another browser to go look and see to make sure that you did get that email. And if you did, you click on it, open it up and say, yes, this is me, because then we get an email saying the ABC company has signed up for the Fujitsu portal. Do we want to accept them or not? Yes, we know all about this company. We hit yes, and now you're on the portal. If you don't confirm after you've gone through all of this to sign up, all right, you're going to be in limbo. You're going to be in no man's land. All right. So we've had over the years guys say, I went through all that and I signed up, but if they didn't confirm their email based on the email sent to them from Fujitsu, it doesn't happen. So very important that you do that. Okay. So now somebody's logging in, right? They put their password in, they're clicking, and boom, now they're on their portal page. And this is where you can find a lot of tremendous information, especially at where it says what's new. I can click on there if I haven't been on it in a while to see what's available to me now. Okay. And we can start using the portal page. When you have multiple techs on your portal page, you can list them under users. You can list as many techs as you want. You can list everybody in your office on your portal page. You can list whoever is going to be your admin. You can make them the admin. That means they're going to be the people that are going to get email leads. So they're going to be the ones that monitor that. So if you're running the company, and part of that means you're selling and installing and checking on jobs, you're not behind the desk all day long, you're going to want to have somebody associated as the admin. Any of your techs that work for you, you can list them there as a user, and you definitely want to list them with the cell phone that they use during their workday. All right, very, very important. We have a couple of very large companies that have 50, 60, 70 techs, and they're all listed on there with their cell phone number. So those companies have hit elite status. So when their techs call Fujitsu Tech support for help, the system recognizes their cell phone attached to that company. Oh, elite status, they now jump the line. All right, you still may wait. All right, if you're out there in the field, you still may wait, but your wait time is going to be greatly reduced. Very, very important. On your portal page is where you can find design and tech manuals for retired equipment, current equipment, service manuals, installation manuals, all that type of stuff is all available there. Also on our site, on your site, is a load calculator. Now, if any of you guys have been through any of our other trainings that we do here at Wells Darby, especially on the hydronic side, we are big advocates for, even if I'm replacing equipment, to do a load calculation. All right. So if I'm doing hydronics, I'm doing a heat loss. If I'm doing heat pumps, I'm doing a heat loss and a heat gain. All right. Nobody can walk into a building and just because they've got 30 years experience, puff out their chest and say, yeah, feels like 4 tons. No, can't do that. Now, a lot of you guys do block loads, which gets you a number that you can then bid the job. But if you're going to now put in a multi-head system, and Robbie will attest to this, I need to know the loads per room. Because what size head am I going to put in there? And a lot of guys will say, well, Fujitsu modulates up and down. You always tell us it ramps up and ramps down based on indoor and outdoor temperature, and that is correct. But I can't put in just a big piece of equipment and just expect it to really modulate way low. Can't do that. All right, it won't do that, and we'll be oversized, and we'll hit temperature, but especially in the cooling mode, we'll be cold and clammy. We won't get enough dehumidification. And when we get into like the inner city jobs, and we get these small rooms, my smallest indoor head is a 7,000, and that will probably be too big. Even with our function codes that Rob mentioned earlier, man, I need more coffee, that Rob mentioned earlier, where I can tweak the output of the equipment, I still can't get it low enough. All right, so you're really going to want to know the loads per room because that will dictate how you're picking your equipment. That would dictate why I may use an ARU ducted unit to hit 2 small rooms right next to each other. So I get nice long run time and I get the most efficiency and the most comfort out of the system. So use the load calculator, very, very important. And you would just put in the information that we're looking at here. You can see there's a help tab on the side. Right here on the side, there's a help tab. All right. So if there's something here I'm not sure about, I can click on it and that will explain to me what we're looking for. And you would do this on a room by room basis. So once you do one room, you'd go back to the top. Now you wouldn't have to change the location or anything like that, but you'd have to change your room dimensions. Okay. You can leave your construction type as residential, and then you'd go in there and change the different walls and what's on the walls. Because remember, if we're doing a heat gain, I do need to identify if a wall's north, south, east, or west. Same thing with my glass. So I'm doing a heat loss. Really doesn't matter. I just want to put in my outside walls because at night's when it's going to be the coldest, we don't have to worry about the sun. All right. So you do that on a room by room basis to get those loads. Okay. Now, just to let you know, Fujitsu is promoting this. It's not a Fujitsu app or anything like here. This is RightJ Mobile. This is from RightSoft. There's a cost to this, but this is an app that you can download on your tablet or your phone. And if you're on the job, so if your company employs a salesman, or if you are the salesman, and if they're on the job, they want to do some calculations right then and there. To me, this is a great sales tool because I'm showing Mr. and Mrs. Smith what they need and how I found that, instead of somebody else just telling them, oh, you need this based on their years of experience. You can go through a heat loss or heat gain right in front of them. So this is from RightSoft. Again, we don't sell it. That was pricing as of 2016. It's probably changed, but you can look that up via RightSoft. So sales@rightsoft.com if this is something that you would be interested in. All right. Now, this is a page right out of our catalog. So our catalog, besides being a sales tool, is a technical manual because you will see on the top left page here where it gives you the size of the equipment and it gives you a min-max cooling, nominal heating, and min-max heating range. It gives you the SEER, the HSPF, EER. So you'll see all these ratings. I can't size my equipment based on those ratings. Those are AHRI ratings. That's to give you the range that the equipment can run in, okay? If I'm going to size it, I need to do my calculations, and I need from my design and tech manual the page for heating and cooling based on different outdoor temperatures and whatever I want to keep indoor. That will tell me the BTU that the unit can put out for heat and or cooling, and now I can size my equipment properly. All right, so again, those are ratings up there, just where the equipment plays. That's not to use for sizing, okay? This is the design operation range, as you can see right there, just showing you where it can play. So if this is a -5 unit, you know you can play down there. If you needed something at -15, then you have to go to an H series unit, okay? Over here, this is gold information here because this is telling you what the line set length is, the minimum line set length that you need when you install our equipment. Whether it's single zone or multi-zone system, there's always a minimum amount of line set that must be installed. So it's called out right on the catalog page, your line set size, and we're telling you what it was pre-charged to. So if you fall within the pre-charged length of line set, you never have to touch the charge. And if it's telling you need a minimum of 16 feet, that is the absolute minimum. You'll never hear from us that, oh, I'm only at 10 feet, take out X amount of charge. Never, ever. Not in the world of Fujitsu. That minimum must be installed. This way everybody knows. You know your line set size. The only thing we're not telling you right here on this page is the ounces per foot you need to weigh into the system if you're going past the pre-charged length. And we'll show you the maximum length so you never overshoot that. All right, these are hard numbers. All right, these are hard numbers, and you can see they're kind of odd numbers because we're converting metric to feet. So if it says 66 feet max, that doesn't mean you can go to 70. That's a hard number. If it's 16 feet minimum, that doesn't mean 10 feet will be okay. No, it's 16 feet. All right. Any questions on that, Robbie? Because we know that's really important, and that does pop up out there in the field.
Yeah, I'm not here right now.
All right. Very good. Okay. So how do I find this D&T manual? I find this via the portal. You'd go on your portal page. You go under the catalog tab on your page. It'll open up. Kind of looks like McDonald's. We got pictures of all of our equipment. You can click on that piece of equipment or go into the search bar, type in the model, and then you can find that model. Then when you scroll down that page, you will see all the different manuals. So in the D&T manual here, this is the chart I would use if I want to size this equipment for heat. Okay, what am I looking at here? It's giving me my indoor temperature designs, right? From 75 down to 60. It's giving me different outdoor temperatures. So what is my average coldest day of the year in the area that I'm working at? Again, right here in beautiful Warren, New Jersey, or where I live in Wayne, it's 14 degrees. We go upstate, we can get to the 5s, we can get to the -5s. And if I get further out of my territory, if I need a -15, I would go there. And again, it will tell you based on whatever temperature you're picking, TC is the BTU output for that particular unit based on that outdoor temperature and that indoor temperature. All right, so my heating range said up to 16,000, and at 70 degrees, 14 degrees outside, I'm actually producing 17,360 BTUs. This is why you use these charts, and the only way to find these charts is to be signed up on the portal, and that's how you can get there. Any questions on that, Rob?
Nope.
All right. Okay. So this is where we find it, Design a Technical Manual via the portal, portal.fujitsugeneral.com. And then you can see the page that pops up. There's your equipment once you decide what it is, and you can see the documentation. Even if it's a retired model, you can still find the documentation. Okay? Because one thing to remember in 2011 is when Fujitsu changed their equipment to HFI. That means any of our indoor units were compatible with our multi-system outdoor units. All right, so anything older than 2011, a 2010, a 2005, a 2000, that equipment does not work with today's equipment. All right, so you'd have to find those manuals for that equipment if you need to troubleshoot it, or if that equipment actually crapped out and you can't find it anymore, then you have to change both the outdoor and the indoor. Yes, sir.
When it comes to minimum line sets, if you have if you are short on your minimum line set, can you do both a vertical and horizontal loop?
Oh, great question. There's only one loop we want, horizontal. All right, we want a horizontal loop. If we do a vertical loop, we create a trap. So we never want to create a trap. When we go up to 5-story, 6-story, 8-story buildings, and we tell you 98 feet, that's what gets us into that. There's no trapping needed. All right, we don't have to do that in the world of Fujitsu. So when it comes to minimum line set, it's always horizontal, and it must be there. So we recommend in class all the time that if I'm going to hang the, if I'm putting the equipment in and it's going to be heating and cooling, obviously I got to get the outdoor unit up above snow depth, right? Which could be 18 inches, 20 inches, 24 inches. You decide. So if I have that stand and I've got the unit now mounted on the stand, I got ample room underneath to curl up my line set if I have to, and then go into the building. Your average install like this with a wall unit and the outdoor unit right on the other side of the wall is about 12 feet. But now if I start to pick up the outdoor unit to get it out of snow depth range, if I lift it up 2 feet, I'm going to have to, make sure I got that minimum there. If you're not planning on using any type of platform, maybe it's going to be just cooling only, and Mr. and Mrs. Smith think that coil looks ugly, well, pick up the outdoor unit and walk it down a ways, because you have to have the minimum. Rob will tell you, and all of us will tell you, if the minimum's not there, what's going to happen? We're going to kill the compressor before the warranty's out. It's not going to happen right away, but it's going to happen before the warranty runs out. We're going to hear a noisy outdoor unit, and that's a telltale sign that that minimum line set was not installed, and we will kill the compressor. And gentlemen, that is not a warranty. The minimum is not there. That compressor is not warranted. Okay? All right. So if I go to order entry product catalog, that's how I can find my equipment. All right. So there's your McDonald's page, as I like to call it. There's the pictures. Pick your equipment, or go to where you have that search bar for system, or type in a part number. Maybe you're looking for a different remote. All right. You can find your unit. Now there's my equipment, and there I can find design tech manual, service manual, install manual, even a submittal sheet if I need to put that as part of my sales package. Any questions on all of that, gentlemen? Rob's shaking his head. He's shaking his head in multiple directions, so that scares me. All right, we are done with that module. It says 10 minutes. How about we just make it 5? So just give us 5 more minutes, and we'll come up with the third and final module for this morning. And we'll see you back in about 5 minutes.
Okay. You should have control.
Yep.
And you're up.
Live. All right, everyone, welcome back. It was a prolonged 5-minute break. Hope you got your stretches in, because you're gonna have to listen to me again for the next module here. So now we are going to go over the installation process. I'm going to basically walk you through an installation on multiple indoor units, outdoor unit, best practices. Basically, we are trying to prevent you from having to go back to a job because of an issue on the installation. So we're going to go through the whole process. This is a soup to nuts kind of deal. So, all right. So what is our first step to a successful installation? We always ask this out to the group when we are in live, and nobody ever gets the correct answer. But that answer is we want to read and follow the installation guides. Okay. So we have two different installation guides that come with us, come with our units. One is for the indoor unit and one is for the outdoor unit. All right, so we're going to follow both of those specifically, and we want to make sure that we understand what these manuals are telling us to do. All right, so as I said, majority of trouble-free installations, they start with our trainings here and walking you through that process and getting you comfortable with the equipment that you're installing. All right. So basically, you are going to have same thing, table of contents to start off. If you can use this for a quick reference throughout the installation process if need be, but we always recommend that you read through the entire manual before doing an install. All right, so you can see there, table of contents specific to the indoor unit and then specific to the outdoor unit. So starting with our wall-mounted units, couple of things here. They actually finally changed one of these, which is a good thing. But first thing I like to point out here when looking at this slide, let me go to my pointer. There we go. Where it says 5 inches or more from the right-hand side wall, that is where most of our troubleshooting is going to be done from. So I would always recommend maybe a little bit more. 5 inches is basically, a screwdriver length. You're not going to be able to get your head and your hand in between that 5 inches. So, maybe more closer to, 10 to 12 inches off the wall, just so you can see what you're actually, trying to troubleshoot on that indoor board. 3 inches down from the ceiling, basically we want to maintain that so we have proper airflow through the top of the unit. That is also where our indoor room thermistor is located, so we want to make sure that we are getting a proper accurate reading at that thermistor. Okay, left-hand side, 5 feet or more, not really so important there. 70 inches off of the floor, we try to get it 3 inches off of an 8-foot ceiling. That'll get us into that 70-inch range. And we want to try to keep at least 59 inches or more from the front discharge. And that's also going to vary depending on which size unit you have. Okay, so if you're installing an 24,000 BTU unit, we're going to need a little bit more throw from that front discharge unit. All right, so the wall mounting plate itself, or bracket as I call it, we want to always make sure that that is level. Some guys like to add a little bit of a pitch, which you can kind of see here. That does have a little bit of a pitch there. The bubble's leaning towards the left-hand side. That's if the drain is located on the right-hand side of the unit. You can see the top center hole there. Just be advised, this top center hole does not depict the center of the indoor unit, but the center of the mounting bracket. So if you're looking to get this unit perfectly centered on the wall, you're going to have to follow, there's a little marking right underneath there. where it depicts the center of the unit once it's hanging. Okay, so always make sure that the unit is level. Another thing that they don't really point out to so much here, a couple of things that I've noticed. I came directly from the field. I've installed hundreds, if not thousands, of these wall-mounted units. There's a couple of places where we have stress points over the course of time and realize the best places to put our screws. So we always want to try to find at least one or more studs when we're mounting the plate. But even more so than that, we want to cover the stress points of the unit. So taking a look at the plate itself, right down here, this is where the indoor unit clips into this bracket, and they're on both sides. Not really too sure if you could see it. There's a little like hole in the black bracket that the unit clips down into. When you're going to take this unit off the wall for service issues or what have you, one of the stress points that you're going to have is going to be right here at the bottom. When you go to try to unlatch the unit from the bracket, that bracket could end up lifting off the wall and bending, and now trying to get that unit back straight is almost an impossible feat without taking a whole bracket off of the wall. And you're putting yourself in a situation there. So if we can get a screw with an anchor in both of these locations, that's going to help you out there. Now, majority of the weight of the system is going to be up at the top in these corners here. So we want to get the entire top half of the unit. That was wildly inaccurate shooting with the laser pointer, but at the top of the unit, we want to get a couple of screws up in the top corner, and then a couple of screws over here in these corner locations as well, just to make sure that this bracket is secured at all of the stress points. All right. Another thing, we want to make sure that the wall is flat and smooth. If the wall is wavy, we're going to see gaps. If they use like popcorn painting or some sort of textured painting, that could affect how the unit hangs as well. Make sure the homeowner is aware of that. All right, now the wall bracket has been hung. We can locate our center marks by following these two arrows on each side. First thing we're going to do is we are going to figure out which side of the unit we're going to be exiting with our copper, whether it's going to be on the right-hand side of the unit or the left-hand side. If it's on the left-hand side of the unit, we are going to actually have our copper connections taking place somewhere right around this area. So keep that in mind. If we are going out the right side of the unit, then the copper is basically going to go straight out and down. So finding those two arrows, let's say we choose the right-hand side, there's one there and another one up there. Draw a line straight through with the level, and we will find the center point for our hole. 2.5 inches is all we need. I have squeezed a 2 3/4, but if you try to squeeze a 3-inch bit in there, you're going to end up leaving a hole that the unit is not going to cover. So make sure that you're keeping within those parameters. Really, that 2.5 is all you're going to need. Okay. So here you go. You have your right-hand exit. You have your 2.5-inch hole. Make the center of your hole where those two lines intersect. One of the things that I would do when I was on the job is I would put the hole on the outside wall about 1/4 inch lower than the hole on the inside of the wall, and that is just to aid in draining. It's not something that was necessary. It was just something that I did personally. Made me feel a little bit better about the draining situation. All right. So the back of the unit, we have 6 kind of ways that we can run this copper out. So we spoke about 2 of them already, and those were out of the rear outlets, left and right rear. We also have a bottom outlet on each side and a left and right outlet. And to access those, there's actually little punch outs on the side of the unit, little plastic punch outs. We could pop those off and run the copper in those directions if need be. All right, getting to the outside, when we are putting the unit on the wall, this is that application that we were speaking of before with the right-hand exit. When we're coming out of the unit, we want to push the copper straight out, connect the wire before we do any of this. I used to take the wire. I would connect the wire before, before I actually, lifted the unit up on the wall, just so that portion of it was done. I would also take the copper lines and the drain line and just kind of tape them together so they, flow nice and easy through the hole in the wall. Now the wiring's already done at that point, and if you look on the right-hand side picture there, when we make our bend, we want to kind of try to make that like as close to a 6-inch radius as possible, just to, just in order to not have any kinks in the copper. So basically, if you put the copper over your hand, just kind of loop it down over your hand. That's the safe way to do it. If you do have access to a pipe bender as well, even better. All right, so you can see there's our 6-inch radius curve. Obviously, we're going to want to make sure that, if we're using line hide or some sort of, what do they call it? The gutter pipe, leader pipe. We want to make sure that our curve at the outside wall is not going to go past where our covering is going to be, because that could lead to difficulties later. One of the things I did too, this is just me. I like to run all of my line hide, put the backing of the line hide up against the wall first. This way, I'm already connected with my copper at the top, so I'm running my copper straight down. I have something to guide me in how I'm running my copper. I could just follow that line hide straight down. Okay. So here's a couple of examples of installations here. I do like to, go into a little bit of detail on what I see in these photos. A couple of things that I want you guys to, just to check out when you're out on the job. So if we look at the top left-hand picture, that's basically a good install. I don't really see too many issues regarding that one. On the top middle photo, this could be one of those scenarios where we want to put our unit in a, put a wall-mounted thermostat with this unit, because the temperature up here could be 3, 4, 5 degrees warmer than the temperature down here, which could lead to an uncomfortable environment because we're testing the temperature at the indoor unit, which is much higher. All right, top right-hand side. We spoke about this when we were talking about location of the units. It's a little bit close to that outside wall. Might be very difficult to get in there and service that board if we ever need to. But that's really a good installation, because when we're putting these pieces of equipment on the wall, one of the things we want to do is cover the point of heat loss. All right, the biggest point of heat loss in that room is going to be located at that big window. So 10 inches off of that, 10 to 12 inches off of that front wall there, and stay right in front of that window like that. That's really really good installation. Nothing really wrong with that bottom left-hand side. And on the bottom right-hand side, one thing that could affect this unit is, can't really tell depth because of the photo, but that fan could possibly deflect air back towards the indoor unit, causing a short cycling, which Jim had spoken about before. We might end up causing a cool and clammy type environment. So one of the things we want to make sure is that we don't have any possible air deflection points. All right, so indoor unit louver settings. In cooling, we're going to blow straight across, keeping the air towards the hottest part of the room. and gradually kind of blanket the room from the one wall to the other, and kind of circle back towards the unit, towards the floor. For heating, a little bit differently, we're going to be throwing the air down to the floor. That is going to be the coolest point of the room, so we want to make sure that we blanket that area, and then we'll have gradual rise come back across to the top of the unit. Okay. Copper, we always want to make sure we have no kinks in the copper. We also want to make sure that we don't have any gaps in the insulation around the copper. Gaps in the insulation around the copper can cause a temperature difference. Remember that our units are always sensing temperature of refrigerants flowing through the system. Another thing is if we are exposing copper pipes in the attic, those pipes are going to sweat. That sweat could, gather up, turn the color of your ceilings brown. All right, so we want to make sure that we are covered with our copper from flare nut to flare nut with insulation. All right, getting to the compact cassettes, you can see a couple of pictures here. Once again, I'm going to pick these apart a little bit. Top left-hand side, that looks like a pretty decent install. We're not, we're right up against the wall, so we might want to try to, cut down the louver on that wall side because we don't really need to blow air towards that. If we want to use all four directions of airflow out of that unit, we want to try to get it more centrally located. Now getting to another thing actually with that picture, if we're thinking about serviceability afterwards, one thing we want to do is make sure that we actually have access to it. So if this unit is, if this home right here is, is not the top floor, how are we going to get in there to actually service it? If it's not in an attic, where is our service? So we might need to install, some sort of access panel or something along those lines. So keep that in mind as well. Same thing with the next picture to the right of that one. 2x2 ceiling grids. We mentioned this earlier in the first part of the presentation. Fits right in that 24x24 lay-in. Always make sure we're using threaded rod on that. The picture next to that, top right-hand corner. Once again, do we have access to service it? Otherwise, it looks pretty good. Left-hand side, that's going to be your most basic install with this unit. That's where you're going to see it the most. As you can see in the middle bottom photo there, we are nice and snug to the ceiling, hung with threaded rod. That's really basically the perfect installation there. Got a question?
Yeah. Will the ceiling cassette fit between standard 16-inch on-center beams?
Yeah, so the ceiling cassette will not fit 16 on-center beams. You're going to have to do some sort of framing to get that to fit. That's not really a huge ordeal, something I've had to do before, but we do not make a unit that will fit 16 on-center beam spaces. So something to keep in mind. Okay, moving forward, now we're getting to our slim ducted unit. As you can see here, we are hung. It looks like this looks like somewhere in, maybe a basement or something like that. Close to the wall, we have our duct, comes out into the main portion of the room. We have our return air. We can make that towards the bottom, or we could make it towards the back of the unit. You can see those two examples there in the top two photos. And then looking in the bottom left-hand side, you can see a ceiling concealed configuration. And same thing on the bottom right, you can see our two different types of return applications. So customability here, we spoke about this one earlier too with mounting on a wall. And we want to remember that we have to cut that JM1 resistor out of the unit if we're hanging it like this. Inside this unit comes a couple of different pieces that we want to make sure that we do not lose. We don't throw them out. These are all necessary for the application here. The drain pipe adapter is located up at the top. Then we have our nuts and washers, as well as hose clamps, and then our pipe insulators to cover the flare fittings at the indoor unit. All right, don't throw those accessories out. We are going to need them. All right, so service panels, I alluded to these before. These are not a Fujitsu product. They are available only through third parties, and you can install these when you need to access the indoor unit and there's no other access point, and you can kind of basically see how that installation is done, and the finishing touches, nice, neat, clean installation, and you can get in there to service your unit. You can also have, for ducted air handlers, you can also get these louvered grills. Makes it look like there's, like a return box or something like that. I would always make sure that, if we're not connecting ducting to that, then, we would have some sort of insulation in there, so we're not mixing, unconditioned air with our conditioned air. Floor mounted units, a couple of different ways we can install these. We can install them directly on the wall. We can install them concealed into the wall. We can install them half concealed, or we can install them above the floor molding there. There is a dual fan operation with this unit. Comes from the factory, operating only in upper louver. But there is a switch on the inside of the unit, which I'll show you in a couple of slides, where you can turn it on for dual fan operation. And basically how that would work is when the unit first kicks on, both fans are going to run. As it starts to reach target temperature, it will close the lower louver and just operate the top, okay? So you can see what's going on right there in those two photos at the bottom. All right, and there's your switch location right there, top left corner of the unit. It comes from the factory in a top only configuration, but you can set it over to dual fan setting. All right, something like that may or may not be on your test. Okay, a couple of different applications here, a couple of things I want to point out with these applications. So starting at the bottom left, nice little install. You can see they installed this unit above the molding. All right, they didn't want to have to trim molding here. When you go over to the to the top right, you can see a little bit of a different configuration here, because now we are installing over the molding. There's no opportunity for us to go above it with this application because the window's there. We don't have enough room. So when we mount the mounting plate for this unit, we're going to have to put like a piece of wood behind it or something to get it mounted in that application, because otherwise we're going to see like a diagonal gap in between there. All right. So be advised, be aware of that. You could run into some sort of situation like that. And then going across the bottom photos, basically the same thing, unless you want to cut out that molding there. Usually 9 times out of 10, I would say try to get it above that molding, because molding is not the easiest thing to cut once it's installed. All right. Any questions on that, Jimmy?
You're good?
All right. Getting to the outdoor unit. So one of the things that we always want to make sure, especially up here in the Northeast territory, one of the things that we have to deal with is snow. And on occasions, thankfully not as often recently, we can get upwards of 2 feet of snow. So one of the things we want to make sure is we get above that anticipated snow depth. And your customer, your homeowner, may come to you one day, while you're on your installation and say, I'm not going to be using this thing for heat, so there's no reason to mount it high on my wall. Just mount it on the floor. You can't take their word for it, because at some point in time they're going to get curious. They're going to turn the unit on for heat. They're going to want to check out to see what that heat involves. and then all of a sudden they're going to like it and they're going to use it. And, you know, one night they go to bed nice and comfortable, snow starts falling. They're not thinking about the location of the outdoor unit. Now we have snow building up on our indoor unit, burn out a fan. Usually when a fan motor blows, we could, cause one of our DC components at the outdoor unit to blow out as well. And it just leads to one of those situations. So we always want to make sure that we account for potential snowfall in our area. So they say 2 inches off of the ground. I say 2 inches above anticipated snow depths. In our territory, that could be up to 24 inches. 26 inches is my minimum. All right. 10 inches off the side, I would go a little bit more. That's where we're making all of our connections, but that's what Fujitsu says is our minimum. My personal preference is more because it gives me more room to make my copper connections and do my electrical wiring and whatnot. 4 inches off the left-hand side, and we want to make sure that we have at least 24 inches of space above the outdoor unit. And the reason for that is going to be when we are servicing this equipment, we're going to be doing it from the top of the unit when troubleshooting boards. So we take that top cover off, and all of our boards are located right at the top, and we want to make sure that we can access those. All right, so remember, above anticipated snow depth, you don't want this type of scenario to happen. All right, we got our units lifted off of the wall there. Very nice. Everything looks good. We might have a little bit of an issue with airflow behind it. We want to try to get, at least, what did they say, 6? Oh, they say 4 inches. 4 inches from the back. I like to go a little bit more if I can, just to have extra airflow back there. You can see right here in this photo, this one kind of makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable. That looks really tight there. So something to keep in mind. Those are your wall brackets. They also come with, a multitude of different, types of, floor mounts. This one looks okay here. Kind of gives us a little bit of height. I would definitely, unless this is something that you can move at a later date, I would probably stay away from that one. Our unit's meant to be outdoors, so there's no real reason or need to have to cover it. Roof type installations. We spoke about the new louvers. The new wind baffles that Fujitsu has released. This would be the perfect application for that. We want to make sure that we have, we don't have the wind blowing across that outdoor fan. And then one more thing that I like to point out here, when we look at the top middle, nice height, good to go there. The only issue is there's a bench right underneath it, and these units tend to condensate. So maybe might want to think about if it's a movable bench, fine. If it's an immovable bench, maybe a different location. All right, so there's your wind baffles again. Constructed of 20 gauge steel, so they're nice and thick. Very easy to install, as I said. They match the outdoor unit screw holes, so you just pop those screws off, put this unit in its place, and they also match the color of the unit directly. So matchy makes me happy. It doesn't exactly rhyme, but whatever. I was just trying it out. All right, so yeah, there you go. You have your wind baffle, self-tapping screws, installation manual that comes with them. Really just a simple install. All right, and there you go, taking a look there. Pull those screws out, pop it on, put the screws back in. Good job, way to go. Basic wiring, 14 gauge, 3-wire. That's what we have to use here. You can use unstranded wire, but it's recommended to use the stranded wire because it's a little bit better of a conductor. So we recommend you go with a stranded wire. All right, so the 3 gauge wire with a ground. Before we go to connect our units, we always want to make sure that the power is off. We don't want to have any accidents happen on the job. We want to make it home to our families. So kill the power to the unit. All right, Make sure all the wires are nice and tight. Loose wires can cause issues with connectivity, arcing, stuff along those lines. So here we have our indoor unit. You can see this is an example of a 9 and 12 RL2. This is the 115 volt system. We have our wires on the 1, 2, and 3 terminals on the indoor and outdoor. We have a ground wire that goes from the indoor to outdoor as well. And I want you to take notice that at the outdoor unit, we only have one ground screw where both the incoming power ground and the ground from the indoor unit connect into the same place. All right. So taking a look at that, here you go. We have our incoming power. Here's our 208, 230 volt systems. At the outdoor unit, you have your L1, L2, and ground. At the indoor unit, you have your 1, 2, and 3 with a ground. And at the outdoor unit, where those communication wires come in, you have 1, 2, 3, and a ground. So notice in this application here with the 208 volt system, we have 2 grounds at the outdoor unit. We have our communication ground is separate from our line voltage ground, and that's going to be important when it comes to the units being able to communicate with each other. So let's take a step back here. We'll take a look at the 115 volt system again. And the differences here. So at this outdoor unit, we have power at our 1 terminal, we have our 2 terminal as our neutral, and we have our 3 terminal as our communication line. So that 3-wire communicator, that is a signal sent from the indoor unit to the outdoor unit. That's called the forward serial signal, which we'll get into a little bit more in part 2, the ETSD portion, which we're going to be doing on Tuesday. All right, so that's the forward serial signal happening there. And then on terminal 2, since it's a neutral, that's where our reverse serial signal is going to occur at the from the outdoor unit to the indoor. So remember those 2 things. Forward serial signal comes from the indoor unit to the outdoor, and for reverse serial signal comes from the outdoor back to the indoor. Jim, you got a question?
Yes, you did allude to this earlier, but we have a question. Do I have to install a switch next to the indoor unit?
Yes, I did discuss this. That is going to depend on local codes. We always recommend that you install that switch. It's my recommendation. It's Fujitsu's recommendation. It's Jim's recommendation. And the reason being is you could get that inspector that comes along and says, hey, you know what? This isn't going to work for us. Redo it. And that's going to lead you to more time on the job. Cost you money in the long run. So one of those things, that we highly recommend is to install that 3-pole switch. Not only that, but as we're talking about electrical here, another thing that we definitely absolutely positively 100% need to see on these jobs to protect our equipment is some sort of surge protector, because these components are, DC components are susceptible to brownouts, blackouts, surges, all sorts of different electronic noise, and we need to make sure that we're protecting our equipment that way as well. So getting back here, like I said, the reverse signal is being sent along the 2-wire back to the indoor unit. Now, when we move forward to our 208, 230 volt system, there's different things going on. So we have power on 1 and 2 from the outdoor unit going to 1 and 2 on the indoor unit. Then we have our communicator, which is going to start on line 3. So this is where our forward serial signal starts. It's going to be on the 3-wire from the indoor to the outdoor unit. So now where do we send our DC signal, DC reverse serial signal, if we have power on terminal 2? Because remember, that's where the reverse signal was sent with that 112 volt system. That's why we have that second ground at the outdoor unit. That second ground makes the outdoor unit and indoor unit be able to differentiate the DC voltage and AC voltage, which is traveling through terminal number 2. Okay, so we have actually both of them present there. And question.
An update from Joe, who's here, said that DCA here in New Jersey do not need the switch next to the indoor unit anymore.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Really good on
Interesting. And now that's a New Jersey wide.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
All right, so I will. I would actually like to find out for myself, look into that a little bit further before I say one way or another. But it's possible we do not need a 3-pole switch here in New Jersey. So to be continued on that one. If you do need to know the answer to that, you can, you could send an email to us.
That's from the code officials. That's from the electrical group.
Okay.
There we go. So that's from the electrical side. Yeah, I guess maybe the.
Yeah, that's gonna give some.
May have a different situation. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean that gives clout to the argument at least.
Yeah.
That's very good to know. Thank you. So quite possibly we don't need those 3-pole switches here. All right, so that's that. You have your 3-pole switch there, which we were talking about. There's your line voltage, your control wire, your DC signal. Getting to the refrigerant piping, this is my favorite one. I get to pick you guys apart on this one. Unfortunately, you're not here in person, so I can pick you out in person. But first things first, do not use existing pipes. We don't know what refrigerant was in those pipes. Could be some sort of thing that our EEV valves might get stuck open, or maybe our compressor is not compatible with. Maybe there's dirt, maybe there's debris. Who knows? Never use existing pipes. We want to always make sure that we're using copper that we know where it came from, that was never used before. Okay. Always use isoclimate. I mean, always make sure that your line sets are insulated separately. Doesn't have to necessarily be new copper line sets, like fresh out of the package, as long as you, for instance, there are some rolls that are, 250. Yeah, thank you, Jim. We have this beautiful new product from Isoclima. This is called Fujitsu Tech. As you can see, it has a nice silver coating or gray. That is going to depict that it is the Fujitsu Tech. And what this is it has a coating around the copper itself, which prevents formicary corrosion. Formicary corrosion, if you're not familiar with it, starts when we have water, oxygen, and some sort of organic acid that is able to collect on the copper, and over the course of time actually causes little pits. I've seen it out on the job, and most of the time it happens in, it happens more quickly in shore type applications. We were dealing with, some sort of leaking. We couldn't figure out where the leaking was coming from. Cut the sleeve back from the insulation, and when we applied nitrogen into the system, we started to see little tiny bubbles coming out of the copper itself, and that was the pitting due to formicary corrosion. Formicary corrosion is something that attacks all copper, no matter who makes it, no matter when it was made. It's something that's going to affect the copper. And as of right now, this is one of the only products out there that goes directly, that aims directly towards solving that problem. So look out for that. That's Isoclima Fujitsu Tech. Should be at distribution very soon, we hope. All right. So like I said, doesn't necessarily have to be brand new out of the box. Some rolls, you know, come 250 feet, so you can kind of cut and use what you want. As a matter of fact, something I even recommend doing, because you can end up saving on copper costs over the long run. Instead of cutting down a 50-foot roll, using 25 feet of it and then having 25 feet sit at your shop until next time you may need, you know, 25 feet or less. If you order yourself a 264-foot or 250-foot roll, whatever it comes in, you can actually just cut that 25 feet off of there and then use that on the next job and use it on the next job until, you know, you run out of copper to use. Yes, go ahead, Jimmy.
All right, another question, not to do with the copper line set, but with the wiring.
Yep.
About, somebody stated that he never really sees an indoor ground. So I answered that it's a DC ground. So I
Right.
may just want to clear that up.
Yes. So, yeah, if we go, let me go back to it. There's a picture of it here. Nope. Oop. Too far. Indoor unit. There we go. Yeah, so you can see your indoor ground right here. That is a DC ground here. Oh, actually, no, I'm sorry. This is a DC ground in the 208, 230 system. On the 110 system, which this is, that's just a regular ground, because we don't need the DC ground in this this type of application. It's just an earth ground. So when we move over to the 208, 230, this ground here is actually a DC ground. That's why it's separated from that earth ground. All right. Good?
Yes.
Okay. Making sure we didn't have anything else. Okay, so getting back to my copper. Thickness of the copper is going to matter. Most domestic copper is going to be ASTM B280 rated, and it will be written somewhere right on the jacket. That's the copper with the thickness, the wall thickness that we need for our equipment. Remember that we are going to be operating at very high pressures. When it comes to that, we'll get into that a little bit more when we talk about evacuation and leak testing. We want to make sure that we have the proper thickness of our annealed copper. Annealed copper, if you don't know, is soft copper that comes in a roll. So you can see right there, those are the specifics for each size copper. Outside diameter for 1/4 inch, 6.35 millimeters, 1/4 inch total, and so on and so forth. So just remember that when we're installing our copper, we want to make sure that we see that ASTM B280 rating. Okay. All right. Flaring procedure. Here's the one that gets us. All right. This is most of the jobs, most of the problems on jobs start right here with this process, the flaring process. First things first, we always want to make sure that we have, I didn't mean to hit that. We want to make sure that our tubing cutter has a clean wheel. All right. We don't want to see any dents, any chips, chew marks. You know, I don't know if you guys get hungry with these things sometimes, but we want to make sure that the wheel is nice and clean, clear of any kind of burrs or anything along those lines, so we can create a nice clean cut. All right. Then when we are going to, just before we're about to make our flare, we want to make sure that we don't have any burrs on the inside of the copper. So you can kind of see here, this is one of those, one of the ones that cleans the inside. If you turn it around, it'll clean the outside of the copper as well. And that's just to make sure that the surface is not having any, jagged edges or anything along those lines. Then you actually have the deburring tool, which is located right over here on the right-hand side. Any one of those will work. And just, kind of nice and easy go around the inside of the copper and make sure it's completely smooth. It doesn't get caught up in any areas before moving on to the next step. One of those things we want to make sure when you're doing all of these cleaning methods is the copper is always facing downwards. We want to make sure that we don't get any debris on the inside of the pipe. Our EEV valves at our outdoor unit are very, very precise. They are needle valves that can be, they're about an inch and a quarter in length, and they can operate in one of over 500 different positions for very precise refrigerant control. So we want to make sure that we have nothing that could get, jammed up in there. All right, so always face that pipe downwards and have the shavings fall out. So flaring procedures, always make sure, and I know I have done this numerous times. We just installed a couple of these units up at one of our training locations, and what was the first thing I did? It was a rookie mistake. I hadn't done an install in probably about 2 or 3 years, and I made a flare without putting the flare nut on the copper. So always make sure that the flare nut's on there, otherwise you're going to have to cut that flare off and redo it. If you made it tight in the first place, that could be the difference of having to rerun copper piping. All right, so make sure that that flare nut is on there. Don't use any leak locks, thread sealants, chewing gum, anything along those lines. No Teflon tape. Our brass fittings are machined very precisely, and we do not need any of these products. There are some guys out there that will use 410 refrigerant oil or some sort of like maybe nylog or something on those fittings. It's not something that's necessary. They are very precise when they do these fittings, so we're just, we're not looking to add anything to the surface of that. Bad idea. What happens when you use these things? You could have a flare nut end up snapping on you, and then, obviously that's going to lead you to some installation issues at that point. So when making our flare, the one thing we want to do is make sure that, actually, I think, did we skip over a slide? No, we didn't. For some reason, I feel like we skipped over one. If we are going to be using anything, make sure it's whatever that oil is in the system. So in most cases right now we're using 410A. We want to make sure that it's only a 410A based oil that we're using to lubricate, not seal. That's another thing that a lot of guys out there think, is that when you use nylog on the system, it's going to seal any kind of issue you may have with the flaring. And that's not the case. It's just a lubricant. It's just going to allow the fittings to fit nice and tight with each other and flow nice and easily. Okay. So where is
What are you looking for?
the tubing cutter? Did they just cut it out completely? Because we're now on the torque wrench setting.
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah, that's pretty important. So as far as the, where was I here? No, not the tubing cutter, the flare block itself. That's what I wanted to discuss. Tubing cutter we did discuss. The flaring tool that you're using is also going to be very important. The one that I recommend using is going to be orbiting and popping. And basically what that means is on the inside of the flare tool itself, the head will actually kind of oscillate and move around the fitting, as opposed to like an old oil flare block that kind of just pushed the copper and formed it. The orbiting one actually will help in forming that 45-degree flare. Okay, so orbiting and popping means that when it gets to that optimal pressure, it's going to pop. Therefore, you can't go any further with that flare. You're not going to cause any issues with, thinning the walls of the copper, the flare fitting itself, or the flare itself, rather. Torque wrench. I get a lot of confused looks when I say you have to have a torque wrench to properly torque down our nuts. That didn't sound right either. When we torque down our flare nuts, Okay, so when we're torquing down our flare nuts, there's a couple of things that we want to avoid. One is under tightening, and two, over tightening. So you have those, those guys that are muscle bound. They, crank it down as hard as they can, and then they say that phrase, "Yeah, that's definitely not going to leak, or that's not going anywhere," or something along those lines. And they're really just over tightening. And when you over tighten that nut, you're actually making the wall of that flare thinner. So it's very important not to over tighten and under tighten as well. There are specific torques that Fujitsu gives you in the installation manual, and the only way that you could follow that torque chart is by using a torque wrench. So if you're installing mini splits, you want to make sure that you have this. There you can see very specifically what those torque settings are, and that's going to be located right in your installation manual. Okay? Always use a torque wrench, no excuses. All right. So now, when we get into the fitting process, we've already made our flare fitting. How we are going to make this fit, basically, we are going to take the face of the flare, and we're going to put it right to the face of the flare nut, and we're going to firmly hold that in place while we slowly hand tighten this flare nut. Okay? Tighten it by hand until you can't tighten it anymore, and then that's when you use your torque wrench. Okay? So hand tighten. If you hold the face of the flare up against the face of the nut, you don't have to worry about that fitting sliding off or not being straight because you're controlling it. All right. Like I said, this is going to be the main part of your installation errors is going to be right there at that fitting. All right. So you can kind of see the process as they go through it here. There's the nut, face of the nut onto the face of the flare, holding it in place, hand tightening that brass nut, and then torquing it down to make the final connection. Another thing I see out in the field when guys are making these connections is they're only using one wrench. Don't do that because you're going to end up twisting the copper on the inside of the unit and basically replacing a coil. All right. So always use two wrenches to make sure that we don't twist the copper. All right. Once you're done with that, I would recommend doing the leak test before this part of the process, just in case you have a leak. You don't want to have to pull off the coupler heat insulation and then have it not stick the next time you go to use it. So I would do my leak test before this, but since it's here, we're just going to talk about it. Once you're done with your leak testing, make sure that we cover all of our brass fittings at both the indoor and outdoor units. All right, and you can see that part of the process there. All right, nice and neat, no exposed copper. That's what we want to see. That's the final look right there. All right, so another one that kind of drops jaws when I mention it, when we're doing leak testing on mini split systems, on Fujitsu mini split systems, we're using nitrogen and we're looking to hold a charge of between 450 to 600 PSI for 30 minutes. Now, I know a lot of guys out there, when we ask the question, when we're in person, before I even put up number one on here, I ask the guys, what are you leak testing to? Majority of them are looking at right around 250 to 300 PSI. That is not enough for the Fujitsu system. You have to remember that we are going to be operating in heating mode. We could see pressures upwards of 450 to 500 PSI, also depending on outdoor and indoor ambient temperatures. And we want to make sure that we are covered in that scenario. So crank those valves on those nitrogen tanks all the way open and let that nitrogen flow. We want to try to get up to that 500 to 550 range and try to hold in that area for 30 minutes. And that's really the only way. By skipping this step, you could be setting yourself up for a service call in the near future, or even maybe not notice it for another year, but you're going to have to come out to this job and basically repair this for free. So like I said, the best practice installation that I'm trying to teach you guys right now, that I'm trying to tell you about right now, this is the way to do it. All right. You can use soap bubbles to check your flare fittings. One thing we want to make sure is on the label of the bottle that those soap fittings come in, or soap bubbles come in, it says non-corrosive. All right. Any kind of corrosive can eat through the copper. We talked about the formicary corrosion when we were talking about Isotech. We want to make sure that we are not using some sort of organic acid on our copper that could cause it to foul out over time. All right, so you can use soap bubbles to check your fittings as long as it's non-corrosive. Then we're going to release our nitrogen, set up the vacuum pump. We're going to pull the vacuum down to 500 microns. Now, when we're talking about pulling down to 500 microns, what Fujitsu is actually recommending is holding at 500 microns. So those of you who have been around your gauges and your micron gauges and your evacuation pumps probably have seen this numerous times. You're vacuuming down the system, the pump is running, your valves are open, and you're just kind of watching the microns tick down. You see yourself get down to 500 microns, you're done, right? Close the valves down, take away the evac pump, you're all ready to go. That's not what we're talking about here. What we're actually talking about is holding at 500 microns. What that actually means is we're going to have to try to get that down to the 200 to 250 micron gauge with the vacuum running. Then close the valves off. We're going to watch the gauge to see where it moves. When we shut off that evac pump and close those valves, the microns are actually going to rise, because when we're testing with our evacuation pump on, we're testing what the pump is pulling down at that moment. So we're going to see a rise once we disconnect that or shut off that evacuation pump. So now, get down to 200, 250 microns. We close down our valves on our gauges, and we shut the pump off. We watch now. If we rise above 500 microns, we got to continue to pull our vacuum. Okay, this is a very important part of the process. I mentioned a few times now, our EEVs are very precise. We want to make sure that we are not leaving anything within the system that could affect how they operate. Okay, that includes moisture. So once we get that 500 microns to hold for 15 minutes, we are good to go. Now we can disconnect our gauges, we can disconnect our pump, and we can open our valves. All right, so before I continue, I just want to ask if anybody has any questions about that. It's very important. Good to go?
Good.
Okay. All righty. All right, so always make sure that we keep all of our line sets as short as possible, but installed to the minimum length. All right, pretty simple there. Always use the same flare method for connecting our tubing. Only use the compatible refrigerant with the system. In this case, most cases, it's going to be that R410A until they decide to change it on us again, which is probably coming soon, I would imagine. They like to throw wrenches at us from time to time. Always tighten the flare nut with a torque wrench, and carefully check for leaks before opening the valves and allowing refrigerant into the lines. This way you save yourself the heartache of having to reclaim the refrigerant left in the system, leak test to find the leak, fix the leak, then leak test again, evacuate again, add new refrigerant again. You're talking about 4 or 5 hours by the time it's all said and done of time you didn't need to spend on a job. Do it right the first time, and you'll only have to do it once. All right, so refrigerant lengths, always important to remember. All right, single zone systems, this is what they're gonna look like most of the time, 66-foot maximum, 10-foot minimum with a 49-foot height maximum. That's gonna be pretty much the standard for at least the compact, smaller sized indoor units. All right, taking a look here. Always follow those parameters. This is going to be for your 9, your 12, and your 15 RLS3. Once again, 66, 10, 45 maximum height differential. Make sure you follow the line set length specs per the installation manual. Make sure we're in those parameters. When we get into a multi-zone system, there is a bunch of different ones we have to follow. Normally, I would have you guys take out your Fujitsu full line brochures and do this in person, but we don't have the ability to do that. So, I'm going to kind of go over it right here with what we're saying. So, with the 36 RLX FZ and FZ1, we're looking at a total line set max of 230. That is a accumulation of all 4 or up to 4 indoor units. So we can't go past 230 for all 4. Maximum line set for each indoor unit is going to be 82 feet. So we can't go over on a single unit, 82 feet. Maximum height differential between outdoor unit and each indoor unit is going to be 49 feet. All right, maximum height differential between indoor units is 33 feet. So we can't go above 33 feet from indoor unit to indoor unit. Then we have a minimum length for each indoor unit, which is going to be 16 feet. So that's going to be a little bit different on a multi-zone system as opposed to a single zone system where it's usually 10. All right, and then you have your total minimum line set length of 66 feet. So your 4 units, in this case 4 units altogether, cannot be less than 66. We have to follow those parameters. If you don't follow those parameters, as Jim had alluded to earlier when he was speaking, they're not going to honor the warranty. Okay, this is the measurements of what our compressor is calling for. It has nothing to do with the amount of refrigerant within the system. It's all about the capabilities of our compressor. All right. When we were talking before about the 2 18,000 BTU units on the AOU 36, we had to have those 2 brass fittings that we could use to get unit B to adapt to the copper from the indoor unit. Okay, when you do get that accessory kit or any accessory kit with a with a Fujitsu system, the installation kit. The accessory kit, rather, installation instructions are going to supersede the instructions of the original operation. I'm sorry, the original installation manual. All right. So remember, the pipe sizes change when you're using the 2 18,000 BTU units on a 36. All right. Not only that, but our parameters as far as our line set lengths are going to change as well. So if we're using a dual 18,000 BTU setup, now our maximum length for each indoor unit, minimum line set length for each individual unit becomes 25 feet as opposed to the 16 feet that we originally called for. All right. And also our maximum line set for each indoor unit, well, that one stays the same. Maximum height difference stays the same. But the total minimum length now becomes 49 feet. So you have to have at least 25 feet and at least 40 feet on the minimum, with the total max length of 131 feet. That will be with the accessory kit instructions. So always make sure you follow those if you get an accessory kit to go with your installation. So you can see the changes there. There's your nut adapters at the outdoor unit to get you to the proper size, 1/2 inch, 3/8. All right, from 3/8 1/4 And in these applications here, you notice unit D is not used. You're just using unit A and B. No other way is this going to work. All right. So you can basically see how those go together. It comes with a little gasket there and all that fun stuff. You know, remember these limitations of your refrigerant piping length. That's the same thing as we had gone over before. They just want to make me go over it twice. All right, now we get to the additional refrigerant charging. This is not something that we can just wing. This is something that we have to know for a fact what we have to do to add to our system. Our units vary in what and how much refrigerant that we're going to be adding, you know, per foot. But basically how it comes, we have a standard pre-charge length. In this scenario, our pre-charge length is 98 feet. We have 112 feet of copper, so we have 14 extra feet. It's just subtraction at this point. 112 is my total minus my 98 pre-charge, and I have to add refrigerant for 14 extra feet of piping. All right, and then we weigh in our additional charge. So where we find these calculations is going to be in the design and technical manual on the Fujitsu portal under additional refrigeration piping at the outdoor unit, or of the outdoor unit, I should say. So when you go to the design and technical manual, go to the DNT is what I'm going to call it for short from now on. Go to the D&T manual, look at the outdoor unit, table of contents, extra refrigerant charge, go to that page, check it out, see what it is. Usually it's around 0.20 ounces per foot or 0.21 ounces per foot. All right, weigh that in and you'll be good to go. You'll have the perfect amount of refrigerant. The factory pre-charge will be present on the sticker of the unit. It will also be present in the Fujitsu full line brochure. So you have a couple of different places you can find that information. And we want to make sure that we are getting the proper ounces per foot. That's going to be found in the design and technical manual. If you want to take a look here, this is going to cover most of the equipment that we use here, you know, for the most part, the 18, 24, and 36 outdoor units. And then we have our single zone units up top. And you can see, you know, right there, 0.2 ounces and 0.21 ounces per foot. All right, these aren't just guidelines. These are hard rules. These are hard lines in the sand. All right. All right, so getting to startup, check run, test run. These are, you know, there are going to be differences depending on which units you're installing. You know, single zone, multi-zone, 9,000 BTU all the way up to 42,000 BTU systems. You know, everything's going to be different. You're always going to follow kind of your own, you know, obviously follow the instruction manual, but when it comes up to a startup checklist, that's kind of like your own, you know, your own way of doing things. I always, you know, one of the things that I would do, my startup checklist kind of started as my unit was in evacuation, or even, you know, during the leak testing process. You know, I would start to do my cleanup, and as I'm starting to do my cleanup, I'm going through and I'm kind of inspecting things as I go along. That's portion of my startup checklist. So what does that include? You know, making sure that drains flow properly. All right, you can pour some water into the indoor units very slowly. Have somebody wait outside to see if we're, you know, draining up, if the water's draining out of the unit. All right, avoid a call back for condensate dripping down a wall. You know, checking all copper to make sure that there is no exposed copper. Right, checking the flare fittings, or even, you know, at that point in time, that's where you start to, you know, cover all of your flare fittings, finishing your line hides and stuff like that. All of that can be included in your startup checklist. That's basically customizable to you. Then there's a check run. That's basically, you know, that's only required on a couple pieces of equipment. We have our test run, then we have normal operation. show an end user how to use the remote, and then provide, information for maintenance and warranty. Maintenance, I can't hit this hard enough and tell you guys how important it is to, offer a maintenance contract. It's basically putting money in your pockets, guaranteed every year, guaranteed X amount of dollars right into your pocket every year. And the only thing you have to do is go there, make sure everything's clean out the filters, make sure it's operating properly. When it comes to Fujitsu equipment, we never want to hook up our gauges and check our pressures, because each time we disconnect our hoses, we're losing a little bit of refrigerant. So that's not even part of the process when we go back to do a maintenance. All right, so we're basically going there, making sure the coils are clean. If they're not clean, we clean them. And you could even do, multiple tiers. You could do a gold package, a silver package, a platinum package, and each one offers a little bit more than the next. You could go, kind of go crazy with it. And like I said, it's all money that goes right into your pocket. So if you can have a guy go out and just do maintenance contracts, it's going to pay for itself. All right, make some money on the back end. So there's a basic startup checklist and kind of how to go through that whole process there. And now we'll go into a little bit more detail on that. All right. So like I said, going through the whole system and just, making sure that we are, good to go as far as our install is concerned. Are our pipes properly sized and installed? Are they insulated properly from flare nut to flare nut? Are the wires all right? Are they wired the same way on the 1, 2, and 3 terminal? Because that's going to be important. If you went black, white, red on 1, 2, and 3 at the indoor unit, did you do the same at the outdoor unit? All right. Did you make sure that the correct breaker size was used? Some of you guys may have an electrician that does the wiring for you. Some of you will do it on your own. But check, make sure that you have the right size breaker. That's going to be important. All right. Did you conform to all local, state, and federal codes? All right. Another thing, you don't want to end up having to go back because they failed an inspection or something like that. Did you evacuate to 300 microns? So on and so forth. You're just basically going to go through there and make sure everything is up to your standards, up to Fujitsu standards, up to my standards. My standards are high. If I come out to a job and I'm there to help you, and I see something that you did wrong on the job as far as the installation manual is concerned, I'm going to tell you, hey, listen, this is what has to be done. This is what, this is what has to be fixed. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. All right. Check run is a self-diagnostic process that happens, that can be initiated at the outdoor unit, just as the unit is getting ready to be started up. All right, this is on the 45 and the 48, which 48 flex unit we don't really see anymore. Try not to focus on that one at all. I really don't think there's anything left in inventory as far as those are concerned. But if you do have to go back on one of them, to fix a leak or something along those lines, we're going to have to do this again. So just so you should be aware, the 48 could, eventually you could run into one. All right, so test run that's used to check for operation can be initiated from the indoor units through the button on, there's either a button on the remote, or you can operate a test run from the outdoor unit as well. And it's just to check the operation. You can check the operation in heating, check the operation in cooling, and basically it just bypasses the room thermistor and just does either all heating or all cooling, max capacity 100%. The LED in the operation and timer lights will all blink continuously with each other. It's not an error code. It's just how the system lets you know that it is in a test mode. After 1 hour, the system will return to normal operation. You can disable the test run from the remote itself. Okay, so you don't have to wait until the test run is done. You can end it yourself. Then that's just simply done by pressing the start-stop button. All right, so if you take a look at the remote there, you see that little button right there. Usually, you know, you're going to have to either use a screw head or a tip of a pen to push that button in. It's not something you're going to be able to do with your finger, and that will initiate the test run for that piece of equipment. Make sure that everything is communicating properly. Make sure that it is operating properly. Okay, so now we get to the single zones from 9,000 to 42,000. Same thing, we're going to confirm our installation with our startup checklist. Go through the whole spiel all over again, check the copper, check the wiring, check the condensates, all that fun stuff. Operate in start a system and check for error-free initial operation. Operate it in test run mode once you're finished with your test run. Operate it in each possible cycle, so heating, then cooling, or cooling, then heating, as long as you can. If the temperature is over 75 degrees outdoor, you're not going to be able to operate the equipment in heating. It won't let you because it's fail-safe, so it protects itself from overheating. All right, and once you're done with all of those, communicate with the end user. And I can't stress that enough, the communication with the end user. Make sure that they are comfortable with the operation of the equipment. Show them how to use the remote, and then stand there as they operate the remote. Takes an extra couple of minutes, but at the end of the day, you're not going to get a phone call at 8 o'clock at night saying, I don't know how to operate this stupid thing. Okay? All right. Multi-zone systems, really going to operate the same way. Confirm the installation with your startup checklist. Start the system. Operate and test run. Operate in each possible mode. Remember, you're not going to be able to operate these pieces of equipment in cooling and heating at the same time. So when you're doing the test, put them all in cooling mode, then put them all in heating mode to avoid having to reset the breaker. All right. Make sure that everything is all good to go as far as that's concerned, and then communicate with the end user. All right. When we get to the 45. We want to confirm installation with the startup checklist once again. It's always going to be the same. Then we're going to start our check run. The unit's going to run in check run. That is very important and highly recommended, but not mandatory. A check run cannot be stopped unless the power is taken away from the unit via the breaker. Operate then in test run mode, check the entire system operation, manually operate each indoor unit, communicate with the end user. You see the pattern, no matter what it is, we always want to confirm our startup checklist, make sure that we have, done to our standards, to Fujitsu standards, start our check run or test run or both, operate in each mode to make sure that everything is operating properly, then manually operate on each indoor unit, then communicate with the end user. If you follow all of these guidelines here, you're never going to get that nuisance callback. You're only going to get a callback if something actually did go wrong with the system. All right, so you can see here on the 45 where the check run button is located. All right, also available on that system is a pump down button, so you'll be able to pump all the refrigerant out of the system back into the compressor just by holding down that button. All right, so you have that check run there. Complete details are going to be found in your design and technical manual. All right, so when a check run starts, we are going to have all of our indoor units connected to the outdoor unit. They will start to run automatically. There's nothing you can do to stop it from the remotes. All right, so you cannot check the operation of the indoor unit separately. It won't allow you to do so. Check run can be used with the temperature when the temperature is within Fujitsu parameter. So obviously it's not going to operate these systems in cooling under 14 degrees and in heating over 75 degrees. The check run can be completed in about 30 minutes for cooling and about an hour for heating. Once again, not mandatory, but recommended to do so. Any questions?
You're good.
All right. So we don't have the quiz right now. As soon as I get a hold of my my friend out on the island, Mr. Rick Coster, I will take down all of your emails that you use to sign in to this webinar. We do have that, we do have copies of that. I will send that information over to him, and he will send you the test link out. In the meantime, if you are not on the Fujitsu portal, I recommend you go to the Fujitsu portal, get yourself registered under your company. Make sure that that's being done. This way, when the test scores come in, we can give you the points that you earned for taking this training, and also get yourself familiar with the Fujitsu portal. So once again, that's www.fujitsugeneral.com. Sign in with your email. Make sure you confirm that email, or else you're basically doing it for nothing. And then at some point today, hopefully we'll get that test link out to you. All right. If you are interested in looking at more of our trainings, you can go to HVACinsiders.com. Subscribe there, and you'll get alerts when we have new content out. You'll see my face there. You'll see Mr. De Palma's face, John Resso, Rick Coster, Anthony Tassi, the whole team, and we're here for you guys. All right. And that's all I got for you today. So I want to thank you. If you have any questions, Jim, we good?
Nope, I think you have hit it all.
Perfect. All right. Thank you guys for joining us today. We really appreciate it, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.